Chapter 372, Mumu's Change Under the Morning Sun. The disciples of the Sword Palace walked to the gate of the Sword Palace in small groups. They all looked confident and pleasant because of the White Lotus secret treasure. Even cats and dogs obtained benefits from it, not to mention them. From the beginning, these disciples were super geniuses in the entire White Lotus sword domain. After obtaining the powers from the secret treasure, they would definitely go a step further on the road of their lives. Last night, the Sword Palace announced that all the trainee disciples would become formal disciples without any extra requirement, which made them feel so excited that they didn't sleep the whole night, and formed one small group after another according to their identities and families. At this time, they were probably at the peak of their lives. As long as people existed, different social circles would naturally form. Disciples of noble families and rich families had their circles, and disciples of civilian families also had their circles. Oh, I only heard 4 sounds at that time. Brother Lee, you are better than me. No, don't say that. I only heard 5 sounds. There are a lot of people who are stronger than me. Although he said modestly, his face looked confident. No matter whether it was 4 sounds or 5 sounds, it meant that their talents were far better than ordinary people. Before yesterday, they still lacked confidence in themselves, but now, all the people who heard more than 4 sounds were confident. Reaching the hero rank was not just a dream to them all. It was like a tall tower. They already built the base and obtained the blueprint of the tower. Now they just needed to practice themselves and wait for the day that the tower is built. The White Lotus secret treasure really roiled up a storm in the entire White Lotus sword domain. The girls also walked out of the girls' dorm, but they were focusing on another thing. Just like the male disciples, female disciples also had their circles. New disciples formed a circle, old disciples formed a circle, girls of noble families formed a circle, girls of civilian families formed a circle, servants formed a circle. However, their minds were all focusing on the same thing. Hey, is it true? You didn't guess wrong. I also become more white. Yes, when I woke up, I looked at the mirror for an hour and still didn't believe it. I never dared to imagine that my skin could be so good. Yes, from the hero-ranked female tutors to the maids who just came to the Sword Palace, they all noticed the change in their skins. The blessing of the White Lotus secret treasure didn't discriminate by the race, sex, or age. It conferred males stronger strength, faster speed, and aroused the power of their bloodlines. As for females, it conferred them more smooth skins, more nimble bodies, and more luscious hair. The higher the talent the females had, the more obvious the changes that would happen to their bodies. Looking around in front of the old gate of the Sword Palace, male disciples looked more energetic and female disciples looked more beautiful. We found a lot of good disciples this time. In front of the main temple of the Sword Palace, Red Lotus nodded with satisfaction. As the future master of the White Lotus sword domain, she knew that these disciples were the hopes of the entire sword domain. Red Lotus didn't expect that the secret treasure would come out at that time, neither knew why her body moved uncontrollably and announced the awakening of the secret treasure together with her sister, White Lotus. Perhaps we will really become the master of the secret treasure we are protecting. White Lotus smiled and looked at a corner of the girls' camp. Oh, she is probably the chosen one. Looking in the same direction, Red Lotus murmured. The girl who defeated the top 10 disciples and heard 10 sounds. Almost all people thought that it was her who aroused the White Lotus secret treasure. Apart from her, no one else heard 10 sounds. Oh, my Princess of Destiny, he is there, what a lucky day. Squinting her eyes, White Lotus looked at the same direction but for a different person. Oh, sisters. Beside them, a girl happily waved her hands towards the girls of the Starwing Knights. She wore a big silver headdress, a broken necklace on her neck, and there were 3 silver blue gems slowly rotating around her body, which exposed that she wasn't an ordinary girl. Yes, she was the girl Yunshi saved on the desert island, Mumu. Today, she wore white underclothes and her naked feet were floating in the air about 1 centimeter away from the ground. Mumu, your state is still unstable, you need to seal your power before you come to see them. White Lotus touched Mumu's ears. It was Cassina who confided this mysterious girl to them, and there was a very terrible power lurking in her body. The power was sealed by special equipment called the Locked Dragon Ring. However, a part of the ring was broken, which made the seal become unstable. Cassina had to let White Lotus look after her. Oh. I see, it was all that bad guy's fault, she broke my necklace. Mumu bit her fingers with a hurt expression, but soon, she beamed with joy. Because she saw the black-haired maid who was waving her hand at her. Oh, it seems that the twin witches take care of Mumu very well, but what happened to her body? Her rank, how can it be true? Yunshi looked at Mumu in confusion. From the information of her seed, he thought that Mumu must have had a very special adventure after leaving the water god's world with the twin witches. She was just a little girl who even lacked the strength to truss up a chicken not long ago, but now when she appeared in front of him again, her power had reached the hero rank. Chapter 373, The Third Godlike Talent. When Yunshi was in the water god's world, the threads between him and the girl's seeds became vague, and Mumu's seed even disappeared. In the past, this only happened when the seeds were too far away from him, such as his several childhood sweethearts. After he successfully proposed to the 1,000,000 girls and found the girls of Starwing Knights, the threads of their seeds became clear again. When he left the water god's world, he still didn't know where Mumu was. Later, he heard that Mumu was being protected by the twin witches. As for why the twin witches did protect Mumu and why did the thread of her seed disappear, he knew the reason now. After appearing in front of him again, Mumu was not a weak little girl anymore. When she was on the island, she wasn't even at the first rank. She was just a girl who came to the desert island to look for her father alone. He gave her his seed at that time, because he wanted to confer this poor child his power to protect herself. But now, she was different. Perhaps she was still the shy girl who wouldn't even hurt a squirrel, but the information of her seed had totally changed. Mumu's seed, rank, unknown. Bloodline, unknown. Natural-born abilities, diamond body. Yunshi rubbed his eyes. Yes, she had the diamond body, one of the strongest rigid bodies. Just like his perfect soft body, her diamond body was far stronger than common rigid bodies. Special ability 1, Body of Diamond. Her body was harder than steel, and her attacks could smash the ground and shake the sky. Special ability 2, Heart of Diamond. Her mentality won't be influenced by anything. No evil magic can twist her holy will and bloodline. Special ability 3, The Song of Time. The girl's song resounds throughout the sky. She has the potential to be the favorite child of God. Unknown God weapon, broken. It contains a strong power of sealing. Just like the tip of an iceberg emerged out of the water, Mumu finally exposed a part of her super talents. Basing on his experience, since he didn't obtain Huahua's sky-flying bloodline through her seed, he knew that it wasn't likely to obtain Mumu's diamond body. The seeds could only transfer the host's experience to him, they wouldn't rob other people's bloodline powers. However, although Yunshi didn't have Huahua's sky-flying bloodline, he could use the godlike skill, which her bloodline conferred her. Although he just knew some surface knowledge of the sky-flying sword, he could use it. What does this mean? It meant that Yunshi could learn a skill which required a corresponding power of bloodline. Mumu's diamond body was one of the godlike talents Yunshi was eager for. When he saw the information through her seed, he was so surprised that his mouth grinned from ear to ear. What a big, exciting surprise! Yunshi had only seen familiar talents from 3 people, the twin witches and Huahua. He tried to plant a seed into Cassina's body, but he failed. Apparently, he couldn't plant his seeds into the people who were far stronger than him. At least, it wasn't possible to plant his seeds in legend-ranked creatures such as Cassina and Hydra now. Mumu's diamond body was the third godlike talent his seed system had found. And although he didn't know the reason, but compared to the twin witch's seed, which was too hard to merge, the affinity of Mumu's seed was the highest with him. Although Hua was standing beside him and Mumu was still hundreds of meters away from him, he was still amazed that the experience Mumu's seed sent to him was 2 times higher than Hua's seed. A large amount of information of Mumu's diamond body was sent to him across space, being absorbed by his body. It was an experience that wasn't inferior to when he first obtained Hua's seed. Naturally, his body was gradually obtaining the power of diamond body, although it was totally different from his soft body. Perhaps even Mumu herself didn't know what the information was, because it was a natural talent of her body, which didn't need to be learned by her mind. However, Yunshi understood it. If his soft body was a river, then Mumu's diamond body was a mountain. His soft body could let him twist the rules of the sky and earth. Mumu's diamond body could let her smash the sky and earth using her fists and legs. 2 ultimate powers, 2 godlike talents, now Yunshi had them both. Even his teacher Cassina couldn't expect this to happen. Chapter 374, The Invisible Thread. Cassina was also the owner of the soft body, however, it didn't mean that the battle god genre didn't contain the cultivating techniques of the rigid body. On the contrary, Cassina's battle style was never mincing. Her attack was always as fast as a thunderclap and as violent as an erupting volcano. Her battle with Shay-Alongness was the best interpretation. Rigid body and soft body would become similar when touching their essence. Even in the Endless Gods domain world, Cassina was one of the few people whose body could transfer between softness and rigidness easily. However, she probably wouldn't believe that a person could obtain the soft body and the rigid body at the same time. It was a paradox. It violated the rules of the universe. Cassina could change her body from the soft body to the rigid body, and then change back easily. However, it wasn't possible for her to maintain the 2 states at the same time. Now, Yunshi's body had accomplished this which was against the basic rule of the world. What would he become? Light and darkness. Water and fire. Pros and cons. Can they coexist? They can, my master. What is rational is actual and what is actual is rational. Light is darkness. Water and fire are just the flows of different manifestations. If it's you can toss the front and back of a coin at the same time. Even if the probability was negligible, as long as it happened, the probability would become 100%. Mayor's sound roused Yunshi and pointed out a new road for him. Everything real is rational. Yes, for example, if you like her and marry her, it will become the truth of the world. And I suggest you do it. She is a super genius. Mayor said with a serious look. In her mind, if her master married the little girl, he would be able to obtain all her talents through her seed. It was probably the highest-ranking seed they had seen. It would be a great waste if my master doesn't use her seed, and the best solution is to marry her. Marry, Yunshi's eyes became dangerous. I can obtain stronger power from her, as long as I marry her. I don't think that Mumu will resist me, or rather to say, as a child, she wouldn't know what she would face. Oh, it's really easy to become strong. I just need to give up a few of my principles as a human. Don't be ridiculous. Even though I'm not an upright gentleman anymore now, I won't become such a beast. At the least. At the least. I will wait till she is 18 years old. Don't talk nonsense, Mayor. How can I become such a bastard? Yunshi retorted with a straight face. But, Master, in the past, Mayor cocked her head and tried to say something. I don't know. I don't want to listen. Yunshi quickly stopped her because he had a very bad presentiment. Mumu is a good girl, and I like her, but I would never marry her. In fact, she is like a little sister in my heart. To be precise, she is like my daughter in my heart. This was his true feeling when he first saw Mumu. He wanted to protect her, giving her the warmth she missed from her irresponsible father. Oh, well. I see. You can do everything, my master. Mayor shrugged, since it was her master's choice. Whoa. Mumu blushed being looked at by Yunshi's gentle eyes. She felt that she was swimming in the sea of happiness just now. Although she didn't have the memory of being hugged, she felt the warmth, as if her father had just come back. The feeling was so real that she didn't know if it was her delusion or something else. She looked at the black-haired big sister, as if there was an invisible thread between them. Every smile and motion could make her face blush and her heart pound faster. What's wrong with me? Mumu whispered to her closest and dearest friend, White Lotus. Oh, Mumu, that feeling is called love. Did you find the prince who deserves your love? Have your fingers been tied to the invisible red thread of fate? White Lotus smiled and extended her little finger. There was an invisible red thread too, which was tying her and her prince tightly. Is that so? Mumu looked at White Lotus in confusion. She didn't understand what love was, but she could feel her happiness from the bottom of her heart. However, she felt different from what White Lotus said. It wasn't a feeling called love, but a feeling that stood for a stronger emotion. Compared to White Lotus's red thread that stood for predestined marriage, her thread was much more special, sparkling like the light of the starry sky. Chapter 375. Hua's suspicion accelerating, the transmission speed of the secret of Mumu's diamond body was still accelerating. Even though Mumu was hundreds of meters away from him, he could feel the flowing of the information of her diamond body. It's really a high-quality seed. Mayor looked at Mumu, who was smiling at them. Theoretically, there was a limit of transmission speed of the seed. It wasn't likely to reach 100%. The transmission speed of Hua's seed could reach 100%, but the speed of Mumu's seed had reached 200%. Only one theory could explain it, that is she and my master are actually. No, I shouldn't tell my master about that. It would be too shocking to him. He would go crazy. What happened? Hua looked around with a skeptical eye. Since last night, she had become increasingly restless, as if something very bad, or fatal had just happened. However, she didn't see any enemy in her sight. It wasn't possible for the Starwing Knights girls to find out about her little she's true identity, and she had confidence in her little she's sense of morality. She believed that even if he lived in the girls' dorm, he wouldn't do anything bad. In her mind, her little she was always the common young boy who only wanted to enjoy a peaceful life. Even though she had forced him to enter the higher society, he didn't change at all. However, what was this sense of danger just now? Little she was right beside her and there was nothing special happening, but her suspicion was still lingering. Checking again. Where is the enemy? I own the strongest sky-flying bloodline. I can crush any rival. I'm the girl who knows little she the best, he should spend his life together with me. In the past, in the present, into the future, nothing can separate us. May, what are you looking at? Holding Yunshi's hands, Hua asked him straightly. This was her privilege as his childhood sweetheart. Mumu, look, she is the girl sitting beside the White Lotus witch. Isn't she cute? Yunshi answered honestly, pointing at the silver-haired girl who was waving her hands towards them on the stage. He wasn't lying, because this was what he was thinking. Therefore, although Hua Hua felt uneasy, she couldn't find anything suspicious. The little girl beside White Lotus was indeed very cute. Everyone would like her at first sight. It looks like she isn't a human. Looking at the broken fetter on her hands and legs, Hua Hua recognized that they were called Lock Dragon Ring. They were used to seal dragons who were sentenced. She could still move after putting on the fetter. She couldn't be simple. However, the lock dragon rings were also useful tools to dragons. If a dragon got used to the fetter, the dragon could break out terrible battle power after unlocking them. Yes, but she is still a poor girl who is trying to find her father. Yunxi stared at Mumu softly. May, you'd better come clean. Do you like the little girl? Finally, Hua Hua understood where her sense of danger was from. Oh, I was careless. Although she is still a child, she is still a girl. Even if she will only become my enemy after 10 years, she is still my enemy. Oh, yes, she is like a little sister to me. Yunxi hadn't realized what Hua Hua was thinking. May, you want a sister? Hua Hua's eyes became dangerous. A sister is always the biggest enemy of a childhood sweetheart. Fortunately, Yunxi had no sister. Otherwise, she would have faced a great crisis. Compared to childhood sweetheart, sisters could stay with him all day and call him brother in a cute tone. Sisters could live together with him and no one would say a word. Sisters could hide in his arms in the middle of the night after hearing a clap of thunder or having a nightmare. Sisters could naturally play the role of his bride in the game, playing house. Sisters were 10,000 times tougher than dragons and demons. Sisters are the biggest impediment in a childhood sweetheart's way of becoming his brother's lover. My little she should never have a sister. Yunxi finally realized Hua Hua's jealousy. Her dangerous eyes looked as if she would. In the past, he only saw this expression when he played the game, playing house, with Yili, Alphyllis and Miley. Oh, I was just saying that. Hua Hua, don't misunderstand my words. Yunxi quickly explained. Chapter 376, The Super High-Speed Seed. The connection with Mumu brought him a super fantastic feeling. It wasn't a physical feeling, but a feeling of the soul. He felt as if he just planted a tree sapling, then saw it growing up and becoming a tree that could support the whole world. The growth of the seed is such a magical thing. Raising up his head, Yunxi looked at the girls around him. He could feel their seeds clearly. In the faraway, unknown places, he could vaguely feel the seeds of Yili, Alphyllis and Miley. Some of the seeds that were planted into the girls' bodies were by him. Some of the seeds were his rewards from the star trials. No matter what the seeds were, once they got connected with him, everyone would have a special connection with him, just like the sparkling stars in the endless gods' domains. Now, the seeds of all the girls were sparkling in his eyes. The seeds of Mumu, the twin witches and Hua Hua were the brightest. The seeds of Huayu, Xiao Chao, and Lulu were slightly inferior to their seeds. Then there were the seeds of other members of the Starwing Knights. He wasn't standing under the starry sky, but he was surrounded by these bright stars. Is it, my network? Amongst the seeds, a well-connected network was formed. He could feel their happiness and sorrow, he could see the traces of their fates. Because of him, their fates were totally changed and moving to an unknown direction. His own fate had also become colorful because of his connection with them. All for one, one for all. He murmured the famous proverb, then touched the brightest, hottest thread in the network. On the other end of the thread, it was the silver-haired girl who was pinching the corner of her clothes shyly. See! 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 A strand of Hua Hua's hair stood up and pointed to the little girl besides the twin witches. No, it can't be possible. A strong sense of being threatened arose in her heart. Now she confirmed who the suspect was. May, are you really so eager for a sister? Hua Hua ground her teeth and held Yunxi's hands tightly. No, stop looking in that direction. I'm your childhood sweetheart, how can I lose to this little girl? If it's Yili, Elphyllis or Miley, I can understand it, but I will never concede to this little girl who came from out of nowhere. If I lose to her, I won't believe in justice anymore. Well, in fact, I said she is like my little sister, but this feeling. I feel she is more like my, Yunxi could find no words to describe it. Just like what Mayer said, her seed was super excellent. He just met a seed that could transfer him such a great amount of information at such a high speed. He felt as if he was smoking. He could clearly feel the change that was happening to his body. Cassina's secret training could strengthen his body in one night, helping him break the barrier which stopped him from entering a higher realm, the hero's realm. However, it was still a step-by-step process. It wasn't that easy to break the limit of flesh and blood. Millions of years, a human body couldn't break through the limit of a mere mortal without hard practice and luck. Every meager bit of progress after reaching the limit of the human body would bring a great improvement to the body after entering the third rank. There were differences between different third ranks. The green hippo was at the third rank, the three childs were at the third rank, and Hua Hua was also at the third rank. However, the gap between their battle powers was wide and desperate. The fundamental difference was their limits were different. The green hippo was a third-ranked monster. The strength of its body was far stronger than common third-rank humans. Child Yunhe, Child Xin Yan and Child San Quan were nobles. They learned the battle skills of their families from their childhoods and even had their own spirit weapons. Their bodies were far inferior to the green hippo, but they could kill the hippo with great ease. As for Hua Hua, she was an exception. She wasn't a standard common third-ranked human. If the green hippo's limit was 100, then the limit of the three childs was between 200 and 300, arguably, the limit of any common human was 300. However, humanity was just one of the races in the endless gods' domains. There were numerous races whose limit was far beyond 300. Before entering the hero rank, they were still flesh and blood, but the limit of flesh and blood of different races were various. Before his memory as the Star Child was aroused, Yunxi's limit was 100, which was even inferior to the green hippo. After being blessed by the water god, his limit increased to 800. This was also the reason Cassina thought very highly of him. And now, he felt that his limit was being broken again, which announced that he had stepped into the realm of non-humans. Chapter 377, Getting Closer. Originally, this should happen at the moment Yunxi reached the hero rank. The nature of the hero rank was an evolution of life form, a total transmutation. Even if it was a weak human, after reaching the hero rank, the human's physical quality would be stronger than an elf and even a giant. The outstanding people could even fly using the powers of their weapons, crossing the racial isolation. The hero rank meant a brand new realm. Mortals would shiver with cold in the face of monsters like the green hippo, but any hero rank person, even if the person just entered the hero rank, could slaughter a group of green hippos with his eyes shut. The mortal rank's limit was the starting point of the hero rank. The stronger a person was when the person was still a mortal, the higher the potential the person would show after reaching the hero rank. Yunxi thought that he was already very close to his limit, but now, his limit was expanded again. Everything about his body had become unknown just now. After obtaining the information of Mumu's diamond body, he clearly felt that his bones and muscles were strengthened, and his breathing became slow. His blood flowed slowly like the lava in the volcano. The rhythm of his life was becoming slow, because his body was restraining itself. Once he was ready for a battle, his body would release the amazing amount of power it saved just like an erupting volcano. This technique was included in Cassina's training course of the battle god genre. However, it was a very high-level technique which Cassina wasn't going to teach him before he learned the basic skills. But now, Yunshi obtained the soft body and the rigid body, both, then he naturally understood this technique. Unlike the soft body, the strengthening goal of the rigid body was higher, faster, stronger. The soft body could let the flexibility and agility of his body reach its limit. The rigid body could improve and help the hardness and strike resistance of his body reach its limit. The two different evolutionary lines existed in his body harmoniously and perfectly. He hadn't reached the hero rank, but his temperament already made him look like a great sword master. From today on, he already stepped into the realm that Hua Hua and the twin witches had reached. After his limit practice in the small valley, he reached the first stage of his cultivation. Now, he just reached the second stage. In the first stage, he obtained his heart of never yield. Even facing countless deaths, he wouldn't surrender in the trial. Without a heart of never yield, even if his talent was 10 times greater, he wouldn't be able to find his own road. In the second stage, he just obtained his body of never collapsing. In the long history, it wasn't rare that a genius couldn't step into a higher realm because of his physical defects. No matter how talented the genius was, without a good body, he could only turn into the ash of history after a helpless sigh. If he wanted to reach the legend rank, only a great good body could withstand the great power of the legend rank. Although a good body wasn't necessary when trying to reach the hero rank, for example, even a soul who had no good body could reach the hero rank. However, the hero rank was imperfect, which meant that the soul could never reach the legend rank. Only the person whose body, soul, and technique were all perfect had the hope to enter the realm of the legend rank. Cassina was a wonderful example. Now, on his way to becoming strong, Yunshi had only a weakness, technique. This was the only difference between him and Hua Hua and the twin witches. He didn't realize that he had become closer and closer to the distant goal in his eyes, his invincible childhood sweetheart. The will of the stars was indeed pushing him to step onto the road that nobody had come down yet. However, it was also a road with infinite possibilities. Of course, there was also a very negligible defect. The principle of equal value exchange was still available. After obtaining so much from Mumu, it was natural that he needed to give her the corresponding return. However, the one who paid the price wasn't Yunshi himself but the stars. "It's warm, it's like someone is hugging me." Mumu held her arms with an intoxicated look. From just now, she could feel an unknown warmth coming from nowhere. In her small universe, the silver dragon whose body was covered with wounds smiled in her deep sleep. Mumu Solibert had a dream, a happy, warm colorful dream, a dream she didn't want to wake up from. In the dream, she was a careless child, and her daddy was hugging her and praising her. "Mumu is my good girl. I love you." Papa, I love you too." Oh, let this dream become longer and longer. Chapter 378, The Growth of the Seed. You have successfully accepted all the information in the seed. Mayor pleasingly announced. The secret of Mumu's bloodline talent, diamond body, had all been absorbed by Yunshi's body. Correspondingly, a part of his talent, his soft body, also returned to Mumu's body. Not only Mumu, as long as he kept growing, but also all the girls in the network of his seeds could achieve growth. Because Yunshi absorbed Hua Hua's seed and transferred his experience into the bodies of the girls of the Starwing Knights, those girls who didn't have a great talent of sword skill originally all became excellent sword geniuses. Similarly, the girls of the Starwing Knights also shared a part of the mentality talent Yunshi obtained from the twin witches. When Yunshi obtained the soft body in the water god's world, the girls' bodies immediately became more nimble and flexible. Now, he obtained Mumu's super high speed, the girls of the Starwing Knights also obtained a part of the properties of the rigid body. This time, not only the common girls of the Starwing Knights, even Hua Hua and the twin witches were influenced. After obtaining Hua Hua's seed and the twin witches' seed, he could absorb experience from their seeds, but couldn't influence the two special seeds. It was because the rank of their seeds was too high. Yunxi's personal understanding about the sword was like nothing compared to their seeds. Naturally, they couldn't feel anything. However, it was different this time. Because the change happened to him this time was too big. Even the hero-ranked twin witches and his invincible childhood sweetheart could clearly feel it. After Yunxi finished absorbing the secret of Mumu's diamond body, Hua Hua and the twin witches suddenly shivered. They noticed the changes that happened to their bodies. It's strange, my bloodline was aroused just now. No, it wasn't that kind of feeling, Hua Hua murmured and still held Yunxi's hands tightly. She still blocked his sight of Mumu with her own body, trying to stop him from looking at her in this manner. Almost all people wished that their bloodlines could be aroused by 100%, breaking the limit of their bodies. However, Hua Hua always suppressed her bloodline, just in case that her power increased too fast and too strong. However, although her power was enhanced this time, she didn't feel any change in her bloodline. She knew it must be something else. As a super genius who had to suppress her growth, there weren't too many things in the world that could make her feel surprised. I just became stronger. Red Lotus was taken aback. She hadn't practiced hard recently, but her body naturally became stronger just now. Although she could find no reason to explain it, the enhancement of her own body was undoubtedly a good thing. It wasn't your delusion. I feel I've become stronger too. Apparently, White Lotus realized something. Holding her sister's hands with a smile, she quietly took a glance at a corner under the stage. To them, every insignificant progress in their powers was meaningful, because they had their own secret. Hua Hua, what's wrong? He finally realized that his childhood sweetheart's face looked strange. Doubt, unease, anger, reluctance, happiness. It was really hard to believe that she could show so many expressions on her face at the same time. Humph. It's all your fault. It was good to become stronger, but she wouldn't forget Yunxi's eyes when he looked at Mumu. Even becoming stronger couldn't make her lose her focus on this. She swore that there must be something wrong. She wasn't going to turn a blind eye to it. Did anything happen when Yunxi was on the desert island? Only during that period of time was she not staying with him. Tell me the truth, little she. How did you find her? Hua Hua questioned him with an undisguised jealous look. Well, it was just an accident. I just found her. Yunxi felt that his familiar girlfriend in his memory had just returned. As expected, no matter how strong Hua Hua had become, she was still the familiar girl in his heart. She never changed. I don't believe it, she said as she ground her teeth. How can anyone find a silver-haired little girl on a desert island so easily? Is this the plot from a fantasy novel that was already out of date 1,000 years ago? It must be because of a conspiracy. She didn't believe that it was an accident at all. How can I give you a chance? Even Yili, Elphyllis, and Melee had all been defeated by me. How can I let you steal the fruit of my victory away? I know everything about him, including his favorite clothes, favorite food and drink, and his favorite girls in the books he hid secretly. How can I be defeated by you, a little girl from nowhere? It's true. This is the first time I've seen her after leaving the water god's world. Of course, Yunxi wouldn't tell Hua Hua that he had planted his seed into her body. He didn't lie, he just told her the truth selectively. Really? As his childhood sweetheart, she could easily detect it if he was lying. Yes, he didn't lie. This really was their first meeting after leaving the water god's world. Fortunately, nothing has happened. I must break off the connection between them before anything does happen. It's the smartest thing of my life to let my little she become a great sword maid. Chapter 379, That Summer, Puff. After understanding the relationship between Yunxi and Mumu, Hua Hua let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, even if she would become a threatening enemy in the future, at present, she was still a little girl who didn't understand what love was. Her little she was still her personal property. As the inheritor of the sky-flying bloodline, she shouldn't have any weakness, but she did have one, Yunxi. She didn't ever dare to imagine what would happen if she lost him. From her childhood, she knew she wouldn't have any friends, because the children of the same age couldn't possibly begin to understand the world she was in. When she was small, she once aroused her bloodline, eliminating a group of enemies who tried to do something to her. The power of the sky-flying bloodline would become stronger and stronger when she was in a desperate situation. Nothing could suppress the wings of freedom. She was born to be strong, so she had to suppress her true power in normal times. Even so, people still said that she was a monster and avoided her. Till that day, she had her first friend in the small town, where she was originally planning to have a temporary rest. No, not the friend who got close to her for her bloodline, not the friend who worried about annoying her, fearing of her power. It was a friend who simply treated her like a common girl. He didn't mind her past, and didn't even ask where she was from. She would never forget that summer. After being betrayed and losing the trust of her family, she lost control of her bloodline power and killed a lot of people. After that, she was driven away by her family. They said that it was a vacation, but everyone knew that she was exiled. She came to the White Lotus Sword domain in desperation. In a foul mood, she started to play a game with herself. A game named Build a Castle and Crash It. Then, she met him. He probably doesn't remember it. When he tried to talk to her, her so-called parents shook all over with fear. They were actually her distant relatives and pretended to be her parents. She never called them father and mother. She was doomed to fly into the sky, she was doomed to be a super legend to conquer the Tower of God. She came to this remote sword domain just for resting and avoiding some unnecessary troubles. At the end of the summer, she would leave this small town and never come back. At least, she thought so at that time. Go away, I won't talk with a weaker. Well, in her memory, she yelled at Yunxi, who was trying to talk to her. I just killed some bastards who salivated over the power of my bloodline, I did nothing wrong. Why did they punish me? I'm not wrong, those adults were wrong. Isn't it natural to kill enemies without mercy? If I didn't kill them, they would kill me. It was so simple, why didn't the adults understand? The world is sick. Weaker. Are you saying that to me? As a child, Yunxi didn't understand what weaker meant, just like he didn't know the reason why she was exiled to this remote sword domain. Yes, you are weak. I can beat down 10 of you at once. Hua Hua threw out her chest proudly. In fact, even if she just used one hand, she could knock out 100 stupid kids like him. I'm different. I'm doomed to be a person above all people. But, you don't know how to make bread, do you? Oh, she would never forget his silly smile at that time. His question made her feel at a loss. I'm strong. She suddenly found that although she was a genius, she didn't understand how to make bread. I'm a noble above all mortals. Isn't it a natural thing that I don't understand it? Moreover, I'm not a common noble. My bloodline was from the exalted Tower of God, it should be more exalted than any kings and emperors. If you don't know how to cook, you will always be hungry. People will feel upset if they don't eat. He took out a bread and tore it in two, handing half of it to Hua Hua. Come on, eat it. I know it's uncomfortable to be hungry. Goo. That sound was one of her biggest blackest memories. Her stomach irresistibly growled at that time. Come on, eat it. Humph, don't think you can get anything from me. I'm a bad girl. If you dare to do anything, don't blame me if you get killed. Gee. Get killed. I will die. Yes. People die if they are killed. In her memory, she said those embarrassing words without feeling ashamed. The lonely, indifferent self gradually became enthusiastic. In fact, her temper didn't change. She just forced herself to change because she wanted to become the perfect bride in his eyes. He said that she was his queen of the summer. In fact, he was the sparkling sun in her heart. She was just a mirror reflecting his lights. If she hadn't met him, she would still be a lonely, weird child. He made the current hua. He helped her find her road and walk forward straightly without confusion. I'm going to marry Yunxi, find the demon dragon and extract its blood to change the shape of my body, becoming the charming bride in the books he hid secretly. This was the road Hua chose for herself. Her bloodline was her wings, she could bring him and fly. As long as they were together, everywhere is heaven. Yunxi doesn't have wings, so I will become his wings. She thought that it was just a common summer, but it was still continuing on at this moment. The summer of her and Yunxi would never end. Yunxi doesn't know how many people's fates he had changed in the past. The first leaf of the 10 Leaves Alliance, the girl who slept in the Temple of Gods from her birth and could only hear desperate sighs all days, showed a happy smile because of him. The child of the Void God Church, the anomaly that was born in the last grave of the endless void, smiled happily when he hugged her and stroked her head. Yes, they were very common daily lives to ordinary people. This was the world Yunxi was living in. However, they were abnormal. The sky-flying bloodline was a bloodline of God, however, its owners were doomed to be lonely all their lives. Even though she had the strongest, absolute power in the world, even though she could obtain anything in the world as long as she opened her wings, however, she would become the biggest misfortune once she broke the constraint of her flesh and blood. The first leaf of the 10 Leaves Alliance was doomed to be the sacrifice in the mist, the most unfortunate child. The princess of the Golden Family was the last princess in the ruin of gods. There was no way for her to break free from this path since her birth. The last hope of the Void God Church, the last hope of all void gods, however, she was also a delicate child. They had different names and came to the small town using different fake identities. They came for her sky-flying bloodline, because it was special to the entire Western Gods domain. Eventually, they all became his childhood sweethearts, his friends, and tried to be his lover. They were imperfect, they were abnormal, so they were eager for the mediocrity who stretched out his hands to them. He was the last hope in Pandora's box. Because of him, the miserable girls encountered each other. Although they never spoke it out, they spontaneously gathered around him and formed a strange circle. From the beginning to the end, only Yunxi didn't know what was hiding in the seemingly normal small town. The small town was their paradise, where they could forget all troubles and sorrows. When Yunxi chose to leave his paradise and went to a brand new world, their paradise was ended, and they went on to their different roads of life again. The first leaf of the 10 Leaves Alliance, Phyllis, went to join the 10 Leaves Parliament of the Alliance. The sleeping golden princess, Milei, had to shoulder her responsibility, to revive the glory of the gods and become a veritable princess of God. The youngest child of the void gods, Yili, had to return to the grave in the endless void to overhaul herself. Only Hua, the free, strong, willful sky-flying bloodline didn't listen to any force, and could stay beside him of her own will. She never thought that she was common. She firmly believed that she could change the miserable fate of the sky-flying bloodline. Nothing should be doomed in the world. Even the trace of stars could be changed. Isn't that right? Hua Hua believed that her summer could never be ended. I have defeated almost all strong enemies, how can I concede to this little girl from nowhere? As an enemy, you are far inferior to Yili, Phyllis and Miley. In order to take ownership of Yunxi, they had a fierce virtual war. On the world chessboard, 4 people chose 28 different heroes, launching a war called Yunxi. They summoned a lot of projections of old heroes, fantasy creatures, and even real gods onto the chessboard, having a war that lasted for 7 days and 7 nights. The Hydra who would never die unless all her 9 heads were beheaded. The Ouroboros who could interfere in the flow of the river of time. The largest war machine of the Void God, the invincible Star Destroyer which could create a mini black hole. The War Knights who were doomed to destroy the world. The legendary hero whose bow could shoot down the sun. The mysterious creature who could shuttle back and forth between reality and dream. The giant spider who could turn an entire world into crystal. A total of 28 heroes responded to their summons, their projections launched a mini-war on the world chessboard. The final winner was a beautiful figure whose wings blotted out the sky and covered the sun. She opened 3 pairs of wings, rewriting all the rules in the mini-world on the chessboard. She defeated all the enemies. Even though she was also severely injured, she still stood in the sky and looked down at the land that had been destroyed by the war. It was Hua Hua's hero, her ancestor Seraphim, the avatar of her sky-flying bloodline, the king above all gods. It defeated all the enemies, no one was a match for it. Even though it was the last hero Hua Hua still had, but it defeated all the enemies for her. The winner obtained everything and the losers could only wail in the darkness. After the war, Yili, Phyllis and Miley had to admit that Hua Hua was his strongest childhood sweetheart. She deservedly took over most of Yunxi's free time and could enjoy his bread every day. I'm the strongest. No matter who the enemy is, I will never lose. With burning flames in her eyes, Hua Hua announced again. Well, I never had any doubt about that. Yunxi said and firmly believed it even though he didn't know the war amongst his childhood sweethearts. Hua Hua's jealousy radar launched again. Locking on the target. Hua Hua, you are not fighting alone. You are the childhood sweetheart camp's representative, you are little Xi's strongest childhood sweetheart. Stake all the glories of childhood sweetheart, I will never concede. That sister doesn't like Mumu. Catching White Lotus's hands, Mumu cowardly looked at Hua Hua, who was staring at her with a killing intention. Oh, she is indeed a tough rival. White Lotus agreed. Hua Hua was indeed the strongest enemy stopping her from touching her prince. Apparently, she and the prince had an extraordinary relationship. It wasn't something that could be formed within a few days. Their positions, the distance between them, the natural posture of holding each other's hands, and her sharp eyes. She is a strong enemy called a childhood sweetheart. However, I won't lose to her. Most of the time, a childhood sweetheart is the pronoun for loser. Compared to the fatalistic encounter between us, childhood sweetheart was a way too normal setting, which means that she can't be the person who has the last laugh. How to describe the end for most childhood sweethearts? It could be described as, we are friends, but we can't be lovers. Because childhood sweethearts were too close and familiar with each other, which reduced the possibility of enchanted feelings. The longer they stayed together, the less chance they would fall in love. Unless the male couldn't find a better female than his childhood sweetheart, otherwise, there weren't many possibilities for his childhood sweetheart. Humph. You can only be proud of yourself at this time. White Lotus smiled confidently. She knew Yunxi's secret and regarded him as her prince. Hua Hua's strong possessiveness of him is her greatest weakness. Even if they love each other, there is still a big problem, which Hua Hua hasn't realized yet. She is too pretentious. She has taken the lead, however, it doesn't mean that she has won. If this was a long-distance race, apparently, she was faster than anyone. Unfortunately, love wasn't a long-distance race. White Lotus could imagine her expression of regret in the future. She thought that she could control Yunxi by forcing him to be her maid. Unfortunately, it was just her delusion. Love isn't as simple as 1 + 1, but a complex multivariate equation. Instinctively, White Lotus understood that Hua Hua had more than one rival. If she rested easy now and thought that she could stop other females from getting close to my prince, she would finally be punished due to this. Humph, you are too naive. With a mysterious smile, White Lotus looked at Yunxi. Oh, my prince, how can your light be covered by this black maid uniform? Even if everyone thought that you were a cute girl, it would be useless. Love is love, it has no relationship with gender. Look at the girls of the Starwing Knights, you are the only sparkling star in their eyes. I have seen in the future that your silly childhood sweetheart will be crying with regret. Tisk tisk, what a strong enemy. Hua Hua felt an unknown sense of danger, as if someone just declared war with her. Moo moo. No, it can't be her. Hua Hua looked up at the stage and felt that Red Lotus was the most likely suspect. Humph, little she does like the girls who are impulsive, because it's my character. As for White Lotus, she is a good girl. In the Water God's world, she was the first person who advised me to ally with Shea Longness, the Sky Sword. Come on. I don't care who you are, because you are doomed to be beaten down by me. I won't lose even if you are a god. Humph. Hua Hua smiled confidently. Ho ho. White Lotus showed a mysterious smile. White Lotus, you look in a good mood today. Because she saw so many excellent new disciples, Red Lotus smiled happily. Hey hey. Moo Moo also smiled after seeing Yunxi smile. Looking around, Mayor shrugged her shoulder and decided to train her Star Spirit team for a while. Anyway, my master has had so many girlfriends, it won't hurt him if he has a few more girlfriends, right? Go ahead. On the sky tower above the White Lotus Sword Palace, Phoenix was distressed. Daughter, lover, or enemy, which one is the right answer? Closing her eyes, she plucked her feathers and counted. If it's an odd number, I'm his daughter, if it's an even number, I'm his lover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 17. It's an odd number. Daughter. She scratched on the body of the sky tower. She had repeated this hundreds of times. She was proud of her augury. Unfortunately, after predicting hundreds of times, she found that 33% of the answers were daughter, 33% of the answers were lover, and 33% of the answers were enemies. Her augury was totally useless. Whoa! What can I do? Ouroboros, help me. Phoenix almost went crazy. Unfortunately, Ouroboros was hiding in Hydra's palace and worried if any of her creditors would find her. She couldn't give Phoenix any help now. Let me play 100 more rounds again. Phoenix plucked her feathers again. On the ground, the most important moment for the new disciples was coming. Explain the Tao is a special tradition of the Eastern God's domain and an extremely high honor. Tao meant the truth of the universe. It was countless people's dream to be invited to explain the Tao. Theoretically, even mortals could explain the truth of the Tao, but they must be a supermaster about Tao. If the mortal was going to explain it. Most of the time, the person who explained the Tao was at the hero rank. Explain the Tao wasn't as simple as giving a lecture, the person who held it must pay for it with a lot of effort. Most masters of mortals could explain the Tao only once in their lives. The content of the explain the Tao depended on the presider, but it must be very useful to the people who were seeking for the Tao. Some people even gave away their fortunes for listening to certain masters, explained the Tao. This time, the person who held, explained the Tao, was the current master of the White Lotus Sword domain, the strongest 6th-ranked human in this domain, White Lotus Sword Master. As White Lotus Sword Master, his name had been forgotten by the public a long time ago. After the previous master of this sword domain passed away, he succeeded to this position hundreds of years ago. Till the twin witches exploded into prominence, he finally decided to retire. Today, standing at the familiar stage and looking at the young disciples, he touched his white beard with joy. As a human, he was already 300 years old. He knew at this age, he was no hope to break into the higher realm, the legend rank, so he only focused on teaching students now. Maybe there were not too many geniuses who had graduated from the White Lotus Sword Palace, but none of them lost the face of the Sword Palace after leaving. After Yunhai the Sword Master left, the White Lotus Sword domain was gradually restoring glory during his tenure. The hero rank didn't mean immortal. Just like the heroes in the tales, they would become old and die as time went by. As a strong human at the 6th rank, he suddenly had a presentiment that something was going to happen. Maybe it meant my death. He thought. 300 years was really a long time for humans. From the first time he held a sword, to when he followed the footsteps of his predecessors and finally reached the 6th rank, he thought highly of himself, and looked down at his identity of White Lotus Sword Master. He thought that he could step into the higher realm. The most desirable outcome was to enter the highest sword domain, the Great Xia Sword domain. He even planned to take part in the Battle Gods Championship contest after that. Unfortunately, he didn't accomplish any of his goals. There were differences between different people and different races. After entering the hero rank, the gap between different individuals became even wider. Especially the hero-ranked beings of rare races, their race characteristics could confer them strong, incredible bonuses. Unless they were a super genius of the sword skill, humans had no chance rivaling them. Unfortunately, he wasn't a super genius of the sword skills, which he found out when he traveled through the Sky Sword Gods domains. He was the strongest genius of the White Lotus Sword domain, however, when he went to a higher sword domain such as the Great Liang or the Great Jin, he found that he was still strong, but wasn't invincible anymore. He tasted a much painful failure when he and his friend went to the 3 holy sword domains. The Great Zhou, the Great Han and the Great Tang were the oldest 3 sword domains, and they were also called the 3 holy sword domains. While there, he witnessed what the real geniuses were. Fail. 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 He experienced too many failures in the 3 sword domains. Finally, he realized what the difference was between him and the real geniuses. The so-called talent of sword skill really existed. No matter how hard he practiced, he couldn't stride across the gap. His talent was the strongest in the White Lotus Sword domain, and even in middle-level sword domains, he was entitled to be a founder of a new sect. However, in the 3 holy sword domains, his talent was just so-so. Maybe he could reach the last rank of the hero rank, the 6th rank after practicing hard for 100 years or 200 years. Unfortunately, he had no clue about the possibility of touching the door of the legend rank. If an ordinary person practiced hard, the person still had a fat chance to enter the hero rank. However, it wasn't possible to reach the legend rank even after practicing oneself 100 times harder than before. There were billions and millions of living beings in the endless gods domains, and most living beings didn't stand any chance to even see a legend rank, not to mention to reach this realm. Endless years, only a very few people had entered the legend rank in the Sky Sword Gods domain, and all of them were known as Sky Sword. A large water curtain flowed down behind the old man, who smiled and turned to look at the twin witches. They have the possibility to become twin sky swords. Maybe in the near future, I can retire and let them inherit my position. Is he the current White Lotus Sword Master? Looking at the old man, Yunshi felt incredible. In his imagination, the White Lotus Sword Master must be a super strong, magisterial human, whose temperament could conquer everyone. The 6th rank was the peak of the hero rank. Everyone at this rank was the core of a god's domain. In the legend, the people at this rank had incredible abilities and their own god weapons. It was said that a 6th-ranked being could beat down 104th-ranked beings, although they were all at the hero rank. However, Yunshi couldn't feel anything special from this kind old man. At that rank, he didn't look like a human who had the power to remove mountains and fill seas. He had recovered his original simplicity. The old master has a good temperament. Hua Hua rarely praised a person, because there weren't too many people in the White Lotus Sword domain that deserved her evaluation. She didn't pay attention to the people who were far inferior to her. Unfortunately, his life force was severely injured. He can't live more than 30 years and can't fight to his full potential. Oh, no wonder that I felt something strange. Yunshi also noticed it. The traces of time had appeared on the face of the old White Lotus Sword Master. Hua Hua, can you win against him? Yunshi was curious about that. It will be a tough battle in the first 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, we will match each other. 20 minutes later, he will be in big trouble. 30 minutes later, I could defeat him. Even though the old man was the strongest swordsman in the entire White Lotus Sword domain, Hua Hua had confidence in herself. Oh, I shouldn't take her as a reference. Yunshi felt that Hua Hua just became more terrible recently. Is it my imagination? In fact, Hua Hua was modest when she said that. If they really had a fight, the old man's body wouldn't be able to support him to fight for 10 minutes. The hero rank was just a joke to her sky-flying bloodline. When the first sky-flying bloodline appeared, humans were still in the stage of slash-and-burn cultivation. When they saw the wings in the sky, they would kneel down and treat the figure in the sky as a god. Cough, this time, I will explain what the Tao of Sword is. The White Lotus Sword Master released his aura, covering the entire temple in it. He had held explain the Tao over 10 times. He knew it was important to dominate the scene. What's the strongest Tao of Sword in your hearts? The old master asked all the disciples in the temple. The strongest Tao of Sword should be the will of never yield. Xia Ling, the previous number 1 disciple, the princess from the great Xia sword domain, stood up and answered. She was the only genius who had joined the Battle Gods Championship contest in the entire White Lotus Sword Palace. In the eyes of the public, apart from the twin witches and Hua Hua, her talent was the best. It's no accident, she could undoubtedly touch the projection of the White Lotus secret treasure in the future. Looking at her, the old sword master remembered the time when he and his friends went to the 3 holy sword domains. During the dark days, the geniuses like her smashed his confidence over and over again. The strongest Tao of Sword is the fastest sword. As long as I can kill my enemies before they draw their swords, I'm the strongest. Bai Yun said. He was called Flowing Light Sword, one of the most excellent geniuses who just came back from a high-level sword domain. The strongest Tao of Sword can summon countless ghosts and swallow everything. Apparently, only Yin Su, the genius girl from the Ghost Sword domain, could give such an answer. The strongest Tao of Sword means endless deaths and blood. Xia Huanjun, the Blood Light Sword, said. The strongest Tao of Sword will dominate the world. It was the answer from Qin Su, the prince of the great Qin Empire. The top 10 disciples, or to be precise, the previous top 10 disciples answered one by one. Their answers meant the Tao of Sword they believed in. Finally, only one person hadn't answered yet. Hua Hua, the girl who defeated all the top 10 disciples. I don't understand the Tao of Sword. I just brandish my sword and kill my enemy. Hua Hua said confidently. I don't need to understand the Tao of Sword, I will only need to crush all the enemies. Haha, good, your ideas are all good. Looking at the geniuses, the old sword master smiled. Not everyone could answer his question. Most of the time, the presider of Explain the Tao would ask similar questions at the end of their lectures, and only the real geniuses could hear these questions. They were the hopes of the White Lotus Sword Palace, although most of them wouldn't come back after being blessed by the projection of the secret treasure. However, their learning experience in this sword palace wouldn't disappear. He was already an old man. The future of the White Lotus Sword Domain could only rely on these young disciples. They would make White Lotus Sword Domain become a middle-level sword domain again. He had a strong feeling that he didn't need to wait for it too long. Your ideas about the Tao of Sword are good, however, do you know what's the Tao of the Sword of Yunhai the Sword Master? This time, White Lotus Sword Master was going to tell them a secret, the Tao of Sword of Yunhai the Sword Master. Gee! Yunhai the Sword Master, Hua Hua rarely got serious. Even she didn't dare to look down on the secret of Yunhai the Sword Master. Yunhai. This name was the biggest pride of the entire White Lotus Sword Domain. Because of him, the White Lotus Sword Domain became a middle-level sword domain in the past. Amongst all the 17 sky swords in the entire history of the Sky Sword God's domain, he was the only sky sword from a lower-level sword domain that obtained the title Deicide. Even after 10,000 years, the people in the White Lotus Sword Domain wouldn't forget his name. The books about him were numerous, which could even fill up 100 bookshelves. Why did so many geniuses come to this remote sword domain from middle-level and even high-level sword domains? Did they really come to learn the several poor sword skills the White Lotus Sword Palace had? Everyone knew that it wasn't possible. The White Lotus Secret Treasure, to be precise, the projection of the secret treasure was a treasure Sword Master Yunhai left for the entire sword domain after he became a sky sword. It was the only reason that the geniuses like Xiao Ling, the princess of the great Xia Empire, stayed here. The Tao of Sword Master Yunhai, isn't it his Yunhai's quadrant sword? Xiao Ling was the first who asked. As the previous strongest female swordsman, she knew the White Lotus Sword Domain like the palm of her own hand. It was said that the legendary White Lotus secret treasure was the key that changed Yunhai's life. Before Yun Shi was known as a sky sword, he was unknown to the public. A lot of people had various guesses about his identity and origin. Some people said that Yunhai was a child of God from the Western God's domain. After touching the secret treasure, his memory of his past life was aroused, so he could be so strong. Because Sword Master Yunhai had very good relationships with several mysterious races of the Western God's domain, this was the mainstream parlance in the Western God's domain. Some people said that Yunhai was a descendant of the great Xia Empire. He just went to the White Lotus Sword Domain accidentally and found the White Lotus secret treasure here, which aroused his bloodline power. Because Sword Master Yunhai was entangled with several princesses of the great Xia Empire, the people in the Eastern God's domain believed in this point of view, which was even written in a lot of historical books. There were also a lot of conjectures, such as Yunhai was actually thousands of years old when he became the Sky Sword, or he was a reincarnation of a living Buddha. Anyway, almost all the conjectures concluded that he was a super talent, who was born to be a Sky Sword. Of course, Yunhai's quadrant sword is his strongest sword skill. However, I guess that you don't know the first sword skill he learned. Am I right? To be honest, if he didn't find that thing accidentally, the old master wouldn't believe that it was what Sword Master Yunhai first practiced. What's the first sword skill Yunhai learned? Tell us, please. Oh, if it's true, it will change history. White Lotus Sword Master coughed and drew out a small diary. From its yellow cover, apparently, the small diary could be considered as a historical relic. March 3rd, Honeybee *300, Grass Spirit *50, Big Grass Spirit * 20. March 4th, why can't I kill them all? Honeybee * 200, Grass Spirit * 60, Big Grass Spirit * 40. March 5th, oh, I think I just understood something, keep going. Honeybee * 420, Grass Spirit * 73, Big Grass Spirit * 52. March 6th, Killing Spree. Honeybee * 1000, Grass Spirit * 400, Big Grass Spirit * 150. Listening to the numbers the old White Lotus Sword Master read loud on the stage, the disciples looked at each other in confusion. Does it have any relationship with Yunhai the Sky Sword? July 5th, I finally understood an all-range attack sword skill. Let me try. Honeybee * 3000, Grass Spirit * 1000, Big Grass Spirit * 500. August 1st, something just changed. I can see the traces. Honeybees fly along an 8-shape route, the traces of grass spirits and big grass spirits are unfixable. Honeybee * 5000, Grass Spirit * 2000, Big Grass Spirit * 1000. October 1st, set the coordinates of the honeybee like this, and set the routes of grass spirits and big grass spirits like this. This is a quadrant. This is a spatial coordinate. Oh, I understand. I have killed 10 million honeybees, 1 million grass spirits and 500,000 big grass spirits. 3 years. I can leave this valley now. I will name this sword skill as Yunhai's Quadrant Sword. I think I can defeat that group of green hippos now. That was all in the diary. The old master touched his beard and showed a mysterious smile. If he hadn't seen Yunhai's personal handwriting before, he wouldn't have found this diary in the used market. After White Lotus Sword Master announced the master of the diary, it caused a buzz amongst the disciples under the stage. It's awesome. Is it Sword Master Yunhai's practicing experience? Honeybee, Grass Spirit and Big Grass Spirit must be very terrible monsters. Even Yunhai the Sword Master had to fight 3 years with them. The green hippos must be mutants from hell. It isn't surprising to find new mutants of this race. Yes, this is Sword Master Yunhai's diary. I found it by accident. White Lotus Sword Master sighed with emotion. From it, I guess that Sword Master Yunhai's Tao of Sword is to brandish his sword 1,000,000 times. No matter what kind of genius you are, if you want to make yourself something, you must practice yourself hard. Your Tao of Sword are all good, you should put your hearts and souls into them. The old master realized his mistake in the past. When he was young, he changed his road of sword skills several times, which didn't help him at all but made him achieve nothing. Finally, he could barely enter the 6th rank when he was already an old man. If I could have been persistent like Sword Master Yunhai when I was young, everything would be different. Perseverance is also a kind of talent. Honeybee, Grass Spirit, Big Grass Spirit, Green Hippo, Yunshi rubbed his forehead under the stage. Just now, some vague memories suddenly appeared inside his head. Green mountain, clear water, and all kinds of herbs. Who am I? Where am I from? What am I doing here? Wait, why are the honeybees so ferocious? Whoa! They're coming. I can't run away. January 1st, I don't know where I am. I'm just a common young boy who wants to be a pharmacist. Why am I here? Is it the God's will? No. It's a curse. The young boy tore off the first page of the diary. I have failed the entrance test of the pharmacist 3 times and is going to resit. Why did I suddenly appear at this place? What's wrong with the honeybees, grass spirits and big grass spirits? And why do I know their names? I have only a wooden sword in my hand, it can't even be used to kill a honeybee. Am I going to die? Wait, why is there a bonfire? Wasn't I killed just now? These questions almost made this 18-year-old young boy go crazy. He clearly remembered that he just failed the third entrance test of the pharmacist. After throwing the report card into the trash can, he sank down on his bed and began to sleep. When he woke up, the entire world changed. He didn't know where he was, he just knew that he was in a valley, with a bonfire, some trees and countless honeybees, grass spirits and big grass spirits. He thought that he was dreaming, but after he left the bonfire, he was immediately attacked by the loathful honeybees. Oh, my goal is to become a pharmacist, I know nothing about how to fight. In the face of the combative honeybees, what can I do? Not surprisingly, he was killed instantly, and that wasn't the end. He had revived beside the bonfire and were killed over 100 times, which made him start to doubt the meaning of his life. If the combat power of a honeybee was 1, then his combat power didn't even reach 1. But, is it my fault? I'm just a pharmacist. January 2nd, challenge the honeybees again. Record, 0 to 30. The best performance was touching a honeybee using the wooden sword, then I was stung to death. What are these honeybees? Why were they always chasing after me once they saw me? I just want to be a common pharmacist, not a Spartan warrior. The God who brought me here, if you can hear my words, I'm willing to offer you half of my wealth and my life, just let me leave this damned place. January 3rd, be realistic, Yunhai, this isn't a dream, neither a trick. You are trapped here. Although you can revive beside the mysterious bonfire, you can never leave if you can't defeat the honeybees. Thinking. There must be a solution. Even though I have only a wooden sword, there must be still hope. January 4th, I know time is meaningless here, because I didn't see the sun rise or set. However, I will still count the time. This is the 4th day after I came to this strange world, I will go challenge the honeybees. Whoa! I'm wrong, the honeybees are too strong. I'm no match for them. What can I do? January 10th, there isn't food and water, I'm hungry and thirsty. I'm dying. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe I can come back after I starve to death. January 11th, anyone who sees my diary, just laugh at me. I chose to starve myself to death. I'm a pharmacist, I know what I can eat, but I still starve myself to death. I thought that a miracle would happen after that. Oh, there is no miracle. Even if I'm not killed, I will still revive beside the bonfire. I think I have to pick up the wooden sword. If this is a test from God, there is only one way out, using my sword. January 12th, I did it. Although I died immediately after that, I killed a honeybee. I felt I just became slightly stronger. Is it my imagination? January 15th, I killed the 5th honeybee. I can confirm it now. Every time I kill a honeybee, I will obtain something. I can't see it, I don't know what it is, maybe I just absorbed the honeybee's life force or something else, anyway, I can become strong in this manner. Maybe it's time to make a choice. In fact, I have no choice. To kill or to be killed. I can only go forward, because there is no way back. January 30th, the last day of the first month after I came to this world. Something happened, and I know I just lost something forever. Maybe I can never return to my past life. When I drew my sword and chose to kill, I can't turn back. Looking up at the starry sky, this is really an incredible world. A month ago, I was so weak, so afraid, but now, I already got used to all of this. In addition, apart from the honeybees, grass spirits and big grass spirits, a new monster appeared. It was a green hippo, who was more terrible than the honeybees, grass spirits and big grass spirits. Even 100 I myself are no match for it. Fortunately, it didn't find me when it passed by the bonfire. The green hippo is far stronger than other common monsters. Moreover, green hippos are social beings. There must be more green hippos nearby. I have a feeling that these green hippos are the final obstacle stopping me from leaving this valley. If I want to challenge them, I need to practice my sword skill to my limit. Since I can become stronger by killing honeybees, if I kill 10 million honeybees and grass spirits and big grass spirits, can I obtain the power to defeat the green hippo? Anyway, for my freedom, green hippos must die. What is a sword skill? Sword was just a weapon used to kill people. Flowery language couldn't change the nature of its use. I have only a wooden sword, lucky and unlucky, it would never wear and tear. The wooden sword didn't have a sharp blade. If I want to kill a honeybee, I must attack the weakest part of its body. My strength is weak, if I can't kill the honeybee in one brandish, would be hurt immediately. Therefore, I can't waste a bit of my strength. My sword skill should be simple and straight. Yes, just like 1 + 1 in math. My sword should follow the simplest rule in the world. After killing 20 honeybees, the increase of my strength started to slow down. It seems that my body can't absorb more power now. It isn't surprising, after all, my body is weak, otherwise, I wouldn't choose to be a pharmacist. Since I can't increase my strength without limit, I need to figure out how to raise the efficiency of using my power. I should stop hunting grass spirits until I'm more confident of success. I won't die, this is my biggest advantage. As long as I can learn from my countless failures, even though I'm still weak now, I can become strong in the future. My concept about time is becoming vague. I gradually forget my past self and start to change bit by bit. Maybe this is the purpose of the God who threw me into this world. I will become strong. I can do it. Because apart from this, I have nothing to do. It's strange, I killed 3 honeybees and didn't get hurt. Why? I know my strength didn't increase. Theoretically, I can only defeat 1 honeybee one-on-one, I shouldn't have any chance to defeat 3 honeybees at the same time. Am I becoming stronger? Maybe something else is changing. February 20th. I have stopped to write in my diary every day. This is the 50th day after I came to this world. Finally, I killed the strongest big grass spirit and my strength increased again. I think I can become stronger. The bad news is that the number of honeybee, grass spirit and big grass spirit also increased. They are like a part of this world. No matter how many of them I have killed, their number won't reduce and is even increasing. It's strange, my knowledge as a pharmacist let me understand that it's absurd. The environment in this valley can't support such a big food chain. Why didn't I find it before? There is no honeybee queen here. Honeybees should appear in gardens, and the grass spirits should live in the forest. They shouldn't appear here. Green hippos are monsters at the top of the food chain. It's impossible that a group of green hippos chooses to live here. This world, it's like. January 28th. I understand, but I can't do anything. If this world is a cage made by a god, then I'm the prisoner in the cage. I need to find the key to unlock this cage. However, where can I find the key? The answer is right in my hands. Sword skill. I need to practice my sword skill to the limit. In this cage where I won't die, I have endless time to improve and perfect my sword skill. Let me start. Even if I have to kill the monsters here 1,000,000 times, or even 10 million times, I will find my Tao of sword and cut open this cage. In my mind, I heard a strange song. Was it encouraging me? Like the sun that will rise from the ground every day, even if I'm surrounded by the relentless darkness, I will also break it by using my mutilated body. Like the night that will come every day, even if I'm troubled due to the twisted fate of today, I still believe that the world will never change. Only we will be changed. The truth that we are still alive is our strongest weapon. After a while, the song disappeared. However, I can feel that an emotion called courage is rising inside of my heart. I will unravel this absurd world. The existence of myself is my strongest weapon. March 1st. My power stopped increasing again. Even if I killed a big grass spirit, I didn't obtain too much power. It's predictable that my attack power and speed would stop increasing at a high speed. Maybe I need to kill 100,000 monsters before my power increases again. The problem is that I'm not the only one who is becoming stronger. The honeybees, grass spirits, and big grass spirits are evolving too. They start to use tactics and move in groups. I need to hurry. The problem is becoming more and more serious. It's time to make a choice. What is my sword? What is the Tao of my sword skill? I'm so weak. What kind of sword skill can help me overcome the strong enemies? How can I leave this cage of time and space? Return to the start point. How did I kill the first honeybee? 1 + 1. Generalizing everything to be math problems, calculate and predict the trajectory of the honeybee. This is math. Yes, I'm not a qualified swordsman. I never learned any sword skill before. My sword skill is based on math from the beginning. I figure out the trajectory of the honeybee and filled it into the computing formula I summed, so that I could kill the honeybee. I should give up on trying any other sword skill and only focus on the sword skill I created. Yunhai, you are not a genius. You don't have any talent or bloodline ability about the sword. You are just an ordinary person, whose goal is to be a pharmacist and likes to study math in my spare time. I don't know what the practice method of a real swordsman is. I only know the sword skill I created. So, keep calculating. This is my only way to become stronger. If I can accomplish it someday, I will give it an inscrutable name. Yunhai's Quadrant Sword. The basic of learning it is to study 9 chapters on mathematical art and geometrical principle. This is the practice method of Yunhai's Quadrant Sword. Yunshi blinked. He suddenly found that the speech of the old White Lotus Sword Master had finished. It seemed that it was a memory of Yunhai the Sword Master. It was a memory about how he created Yunhai's Quadrant Sword. However, Yunshi found something familiar in his memory. The bonfire, the strange world, and the green hippos. Did Yunhai enter a trial world of the stars? Maybe only Yunhai himself knew the answer. Apparently, he didn't get help from anyone. No one explained the rules to him like what Mayor did for Yunshi. He entered the trial world without any preparation. The only lucky thing was his enemies were weaker than what Yunshi faced before. He could practice his sword skill using the honeybees, grass spirits, and big grass spirits. The unlucky thing was he had only a wooden sword. Yunshi had an iron sword and learned the breathing method from Hua Hua before. As for Yunhai, he literally started from zero. Fortunately, Yunhai created the invisible Yunhai's Quadrant Sword due to this experience, which was a god sword skill that wasn't inferior to Hua Hua's sky-flying sword. Yunshi knew the road he had gone through, and now, he could study Yunhai's sword skill from the beginning. 9 chapters on mathematical art and geometrical principle. Yunshi murmured and decided to read the 2 books first. After the speech, the disciples left in small groups. The next important thing to them was to pick classes. It wasn't a common thing to listen to, explained the Tao. White Lotus Sword Domain wasn't a prosperous holy land of sword skill like the Great Xia Sword Domain. There were only a few swordsmen who were entitled to explain the Tao here. At other times, disciples needed to pick the classes themselves. Since most disciples were not geniuses who were 100% sure that they could enter the hero rank and become one of the top 10 disciples, choosing proper classes and a good tutor were very important to them. Otherwise, if they couldn't reach the peak of the 3rd rank within 5 years, they would be driven away and wouldn't even be admitted as a disciple of the Sword Palace. They would stay in the mortal world forever and could never come back to the sword tip area. Of course, the geniuses from other sword domains didn't need to worry about this. Their goals were the projection of the White Lotus secret treasure from the beginning. Library, where is the library? Yunshi didn't go to pick classes immediately like other disciples. He had walked around in the wide yard of the Sword Palace for a while, but didn't find where the library was. The library. It doesn't open to new disciples. Several disciples answered him. The library. I don't know. We come here to practice our sword skills. There are no godly martial arts in the library, why do I need to go there? Most disciples held this view. Finally, a female disciple who looked very kindly told him the location of the library. Isn't it too small? Compared to other buildings, the library was too small and inconspicuous in a corner of the Sword Palace. It was a 3-story small wooden house, located beside a lake. Compared to it, the several female disciples walked beside the lake were more eye-catching. Bunches of green Virginia creepers grew on the walls, making the small house melt into the environment. Sorry, the library doesn't open to new disciples, it only opens to tutors. If you are looking for common literature, there is a big library in the town nearby, you can go there. The librarian lazily took a glance at Yunshi and said. There were a lot of valuable books in this library, and many of them were the only existing copy in the world. Only elite disciples and tutors could come here to borrow books. New disciples were not allowed to borrow materials here. Well, I should have the permission to borrow books here. Yunshi hesitated for a while, then took out the shell with an hourglass-shaped pattern. Since the shell could let him come and leave the girls' dorm freely, it should also work here. Looking at the shell in Yunshi's hand, the middle-aged librarian froze and rubbed his eyes. As the librarian, he felt that it looked familiar, but couldn't remember what it was clearly. He was sure that it wasn't from the White Lotus Sword Palace, but he had a very special impression about it. Oh, I remember it. Of course, it's not a permit of the library or anything from the Sword Palace itself. How can such a thing be the token of a small library in a lower-level sword domain? Anyone who held it could even enter the palace of the Great Xia Empire freely, not to mention this library. The Battle God's token, the token of the Sixth Sky Sword, the librarian murmured. His legs were shaking. Compared to the person who could obtain this token, he, an unknown librarian, was as weak as an ant. Even if he was killed, no one would dare to seek revenge for him. Of course, you can borrow books here. I will give the authority for you immediately, the librarian only wanted to cry. If time could turn back, he wouldn't say a word just now. Thank you. Yunshi let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that his cheap teacher's reputation was really useful here. After walking into the library, Yunshi found that the library wasn't small at all. Looking at it from the outside, it was just a 3-story wooden house, but its inside was incredibly wide. Is its inner space expanded by magic? Looking at the over 10-story spiral staircase and the aisles amongst one bookshelf after another, it couldn't be just a 3-story house. Moreover, there was a light curtain covering the entrance of the basement, which meant that there was a wide space under the ground too. Yunshi drew out the shell and touched the light curtain, just like what happened when he touched the magic circle of the girls' dorm. This light curtain straightly disappeared. Apparently, the Sky Sword's token could be used here too. However, he wasn't going to go to the basement now. He was just looking for some beginner books. Geography, astronomy, history, math. Yunshi found the books he needed on the 3rd floor. The beginner books to learn Yunhai's quadrant sword were just some basic math books. However, don't look down on them. They were the cornerstones of math, the base of calculating. Well, let me borrow more books. After finding 9 chapters on mathematical art and geometrical principle, Yunshi picked up several other books on the bookshelf. Probability calculus. Introduction to calculus, even a monkey can understand it. Theory of real number. The 5 beginner books were what Yunshi was going to read as the introduction to mathematics. After picking up the 5 books, he looked at the books on the top of the bookshelf. Immediately, he felt that he might be a monkey, because he didn't understand the titles of the books at all. Is the cat dead or alive? I will kill that damned cat. The Ghost Cat of Mathematics, 2 theories about the question of Yunhai the Sky Sword. 36 proof techniques to verify if the cat is dead or alive. It's wrong to torment the cat. I will eat that cat. I don't believe this theory. I prefer to believe that cats never exist in this world. Yunhai, F***ku and your cat. A pile of books all referred to a mysterious cat. Looking at the names of the authors on the books, Yunshi found almost all the names of the top mathematicians he knew, including a dragon, and someone was directly cursing Yunhai the Sky Sword in the title. It seemed that all the mathematicians all over the world were in a towering rage when referring to the cat. It must be a very strong cat. Yunshi thought. It seemed that Yunhai was the first person who put forward the theory about the cat. He had a feeling that if he wanted to master Yunhai's quadrant sword, he would have to face the cat sooner or later. Deep in the night, Yunshi lay on his bed with a painful look. It's too difficult to understand the content of the books. Are they really just the basic knowledge to learn Yunhai's quadrant sword? Yunshi didn't expect that it was so hard to study mathematics. He just read 9 chapters on mathematical art and geometrical principle, and they had made him fall into the endless computation of infinite loops. Because he was already a hero-ranked baker, his strong hero-ranked mentality helped him a lot. At the hero rank, his computation speed was hundreds of times faster than ordinary people. He could calculate pi to hundreds of decimal places and instinctively kept calculating. To ordinary people, it wouldn't be a problem because humans would instinctively give up thinking about the thing that was beyond their computing power. But to Yunshi, he just couldn't turn a blind eye to the formulas. What's the limiting value of this angle? What's the threshold of this unknown number? Why did the computation fall into an infinite loop? Before he went to the Sword Palace, he only learned add, subtract, multiply and divide because he needed to record the income of his family's bread shop every day. The 4 fundamental operations of arithmetic were sufficient for him at that time. After studying the knowledge in 9 chapters on mathematical art and geometrical principle, he finally understood how hard the real mathematics was. It was a Tao that could explain everything in the universe. Mathematics didn't stand for truth, because it was a process that was used to pursue the truth of the universe. From mathematics, people could sum up the nature of astronomy, physics and even the world itself. It was a wisdom that applied to every place in the entire God's domains, which was sufficient to be the core of the godlike sword skill, Yunhai's quadrant sword. How did Yunhai create his sword skill by using math? It makes no sense. Yunshi only felt awe about Yunhai's wisdom. He was sure that Yunhai's quadrant sword wasn't possible to be mastered by ordinary people, because only the best geniuses of math could learn its basics after endless failures. Compared to Hua's sky-flying sword, Yunhai's quadrant sword seemed to be easy to study. However, it was actually more difficult than any sword skill Yunshi had ever known. It seemed that everyone could learn the basics of Yunhai's quadrant sword by reading 9 chapters on mathematical art and geometrical principle. Unfortunately, it was just a delusion. Even Yunshi, whose computation speed was hundreds of times faster than ordinary people, felt the strain of learning the basics of Yunhai's quadrant sword, not to mention other people. Perhaps Yunhai was a real super genius of math, just like Hua was a super genius of sword. No, I should stop calculating. Yunshi pressed his hands on his head. It wasn't a sword skill he could learn now. He even doubted that Yunhai's understanding about math had entered the legend rank when he created this sword skill. Only super geniuses of math could learn the basic of Yunhai's quadrant sword, as for when could they master it? Only God knows. Nah, forget it. Let me try Teacher Casina's gift first. With a sad look upon his face, Yunhai touched the shell in front of his chest and gave the words. Open for me, the Sky Tower. Yunshi found that he was in the incredible dream again. He stood in front of the door of Cloud and looked at her. Today, she was still guarding the door on the golden seashore. She was the guardian of the door, the last warning line stopping any intruder from getting close to the door. 3 strands of icy blue hair stood upright on her forehead, her slender braided hair was hanging behind her. Her cuffs were inlaid with steel blue gems while a double-edged sword sheath with a pendant on it was hanging on her waist. She gave off a very icy cold and alienated aura. While she was inserting her huge blue slanted sword back into its sheath. That sword made her slender body seem even more slender. Her blade also seemed to give off a cold silvery white aura. Just the sword hilt alone was already over half a meter long. The hilt of the sword and the edge of the blade seemed to share a single central connection point. The point seemed to be a circular compass, and in the middle of that compass was a huge keyhole. Apparently, something was sealed there. Yunshi had the same dream again and again and again, and every time, his end was the same. Every time, he would be killed by her sword. However, he was never afraid of this dream. Why? Because this girl in his dream was the first person who touched his heart. This was his deepest secret, even Hua didn't know about it. First love, no, it was an emotion that was much stronger than that. Her figure had left in his heart a long time ago. Hua was his first love in the real world, and she was his first dream lover in his dream world. The difference was that Hua was a girl next door, who he could see every day, and she was as unreal as a foam, who he could only find in his dream. She was his dream lover. However, he was just a self-invited soul in her eyes. Every time she saw him, she would brandish her sword toward him. Her sword was cold, containing the power that could even freeze your soul. He didn't even remember how many times he had been killed by her sword. However, this time, she didn't brandish her sword. She just stood in front of the door and didn't even take a glance at him. Isn't her attitude different today? Yunshi couldn't help but stretched out his hand, pinching his face. Ouch! Yunshi looked at his hands in surprise. This was the first time he felt pain in this dream. Not only so, everything in this time became 100 times clearer than the dreams before. Everything looked the same, but something was changed. Looking at her, she was still like a silver gem on the golden seashore, sparkling cold lights, lonely and beautiful. This is me. Looking at his own hands, Yunshi found that he obtained a real body in this dream. Walking to the sea, he saw his reflection in the water. It wasn't his own body. Brown skin, slender body, a mask with 3 golden pupil-like patterns, ponytail and bared feet. Apart from these, there was also a special mark above his head, an hourglass-shaped mark. It was apparently his teacher, Casina's body. Is this really a dream? Yunshi pinched his arms and clearly felt the pain. However, it wasn't simply a feedback of the body, but a feedback of the soul. Haha, my cute disciple, don't pinch this body, I will feel embarrassed. When Yunshi was making blind and disorderly conjectures, he heard Casina's voice. I know you must have a lot of questions, but there is no time to explain them. This is just a pre-recorded message. I found that your body has some problems, but I don't know how to cure your body. Therefore, I gave your body my identity, and you can go to the Sky Tower, looking for solutions yourself. Do you see the door? It's the door leading to the real Sky Tower. Don't worry, you are using my identity now, the Guardian won't attack you. The real Sky Tower isn't any of the towers in the real world, they are just the projections of the real tower. You, after entering the Sky Tower, use my identity, go to 100 successive victories, get the Soul Jade, heal your body. Due to some unknown reason, Cassina's voice became blurry and intermittent at this time. So, this is the door leading to the real Sky Tower. She is the guardian of the door. Yunshi looked at the familiar and strange figure in the front of the door. For a long time, he thought that she was just his imagination in his dreams, but now, he understood that she was a real person, the forever guardian of the Sky Tower. You are not my dream, you are real. In the water god's world, his body was possessed by her, announcing the words of sanction to Hydra and Shay alongness. However, when she possessed his body, he couldn't remember everything clearly. For a long time, he only remembered her absolute will in her cold sword light. Till now, he finally remembered the whole thing. She was the last order of the Sky Sword God's domain. Anyone who infringed the order would be penalized by her sharp, cold sword. Maybe only Cassina, who was at the same rank with her, could resist her cold, absolute will. Looking at the figure with mixed feelings, Yunshi understood what a wide gap was between them. However, when he looked at the figure who had stood at that place for countless years, he could only feel a word: loneliness. How long has she stayed in front of this door? Since when has her time been frozen? As the guardian of the door, did she dream of leaving the golden seashore and take a rest? What's your name? Walking to the girl, Yunshi asked. Even he himself didn't know why he was so bold to ask a Sky Sword's name. The scene fell into silence. After a long while, the girl, the oldest Sky Sword, looked at Yunshi with a meaningful look. You are not Cassina. Yes, I'm my teacher's disciple. She gave you her mark of the Sky Tower. Yes, I think so. Then, you should get into the door. After confirming his identity, the girl closed her eyes again. Even though she thought that it was misbehaving to pass on the mark of the Sky Tower to others, since it was allowed by the rules of the Sky Tower, she wouldn't say anything. Please, tell me your name. Tell me, please. Like a child who wanted candy, Yunshi walked around the Sky Sword, who had closed her eyes in silence. This was his first time to be so proactive. Is it because his dream came true? Although she was standing there, he still felt that she was unreal and fantastic, as if she would disappear if she didn't tell him her name. You talk too much. The Sky Sword opened her eyes and held her sword. She brandished the sword, and instantly, Yunshi was blown into the door. Target disappeared. After driving Yunshi into the door of the Sky Tower, the girl closed her eyes and continued to guard the door. Her silver-blue ponytail blew in the wind, as if nothing had happened just now. Ho! Yunshi dropped to the ground at a high speed from the sky, and finally landed safely. In fact, it wasn't ground but was just a stone plate-like thing in the sky. If I were an ordinary person, the person would be too nervous to feel the existence of their legs. The stone plate was connected with a tall tower in the void, which was surrounded by endless rune words. Countless scenes of different worlds were reflected on the body of the tower. The White Lotus Sword Domain, the Great Yuan Sword Domain, the Great Qin Sword Domain, the Great Zhou Sword Domain, the Great Han Sword Domain, the Great Tang Sword Domain, the Great Xia Sword Domain. All the sword domains in the Sky Sword God's domain, as long as there were projections of the Sky Tower in the domains, were all appearing on the body of the tall tower. And their reflections just occupied a small area of the tower's body. The entire Sky Tower was connected with countless worlds, which was impossible to figure out the total. And from time to time, there would be a brand new scene of a world appearing on the tower's body, which meant that a new world just joined the web system of the Sky Tower. This was the nature of the Sky Tower, the core connecting endless gods' domains. And there were 6 towers who had the same function like the Sky Tower in the universe. The 7 towers were the foundation that the endless god domain world could form. Through the star bridge system connecting the 7 towers, the god domains which were over thousands of light years away could be an equal member of the same world system. Arguably, the endless god domain world was a civilization building on the 7 towers. The Sky Tower, the God Tower, the Dragon Tower, if they didn't exist, there would only be countless small worlds scattered around the universe. The current God domain world would never form. Is this the real Sky Tower? Looking around, Yunshi found that he was at the lower part of the upper part of the tower. The location belonged to Sky Sword God's domain on the Sky Tower. There were only a few gods' domains nearby. In fact, the sword-shaped sword domains only existed in the Sky Sword God's domain. In other gods' domains, their worlds weren't called sword domain, neither in the shape of sword. They were formed in different shapes. Moreover, compared to other gods' domains, the territory of the Sky Sword God's domain wasn't large at all. However, it could occupy such a large area on the upper part of the Sky Tower, which proved the strong power of the Sky Swords. Above the Sky Sword God's domain, there was only one god's domain, which was more vast and larger. Surrounded by endless white clouds, there were countless strange beasts flying in the sky of that domain. There was a beast who could turn into whale and rock. Its name was Kuan, who was an old fantasy creature at the same rank with Hydra. There was a snake who flew in the lightning swamp with 2 wings, who was an old fantasy creature called Feather Snake. There were a group of birds whose wings covered with golden lights, who were the guardians of Buddha, eating giant snakes as their foods. In the entire Eastern Gods domain, only a God's domain had so many fantasy creatures. It's the Kunlun God's domain. Looking at the scene of the domain, Yunshi knew it was the biggest domain and the symbol of civilization worlds, the Kunlun God's domain. In legend, it was the homeland of endless fantasy creatures, the strongest domain in the entire Eastern Gods domain. Just like the Dragon God's domain was the only overlord in the entire Northern Gods domain, the Kunlun God's domain stood for the civilization of the entire Eastern world. The master of the Kunlun God's domain was an old god called West Queen, the mother of all fantasy creatures. Her identity in the Eastern Gods domain was equal to the master of the Western Gods domain, one of Yunshi's ex-girlfriends, the god above all gods, Ionia. Her rank was even higher than the legend rank. Looking at the fantastic scene of the Kunlun God's domain, Yunshi finally remembered his purpose coming to the Sky Tower. Cassina didn't lend her identity to him just to let him go sightseeing, she wished for him to find the solution for healing his body here. Yunshi didn't know what was wrong with his body, however, since Cassina said it, it should be true. Obtain 100 successive victories and get the Soul Jade as a reward. Remembering what Cassina said, his hand lightly touched the body of the tower. The next moment, his body was absorbed into the Sky Tower. It was hard to describe the feeling of touching the Sky Tower. He felt as if he was seeing the entire universe in an instant. He saw endless lights of stars flying around him, forming countless star bridges. Each star bridge leading to a world, a civilization. The entire God domain world was in the web made of the countless star bridges, and even though there were already overwhelming worlds in the web, they just occupied a small part in the starry sky. Outside the farthest star bridge, there were still numerous unknown, mysterious worlds, which were too far away from the endless God domain worlds, so they hadn't been caught by the web made of the star bridges. Arguably, the living beings in these worlds were still in the darkness of ignorance. The world is so big. The starry sky is so vast. Is this the reason why Teacher Cassina gave me her identity? Is this awesome, soul-stirring scene what she wanted me to see? Walking along the starlights, Yunshi found that he was standing at a place which looked very familiar. Looking around, Yunshi was surprised. Being surrounded by the starlights, one road after another appeared in all directions, like a mini star bridge system. It looked pretty similar to what Yunshi saw at the star altar. Master, does the star trial begin again? Mayor appeared in her soul form, looking around with curiosity. No, the next star trial hasn't started. I'm in the sky tower. Yunshi explained. Oh, this place looks really similar to the star altar. Mayor floated in the air and sniffed. I can smell Master's smell everywhere, even if it isn't your past heritage, it must have a deep relationship with you. Mayor was sure that the sky tower was built by using the power of the stars. Oh, if it's true, was I really a great person in my past life? In Yunshi's mind, his past life was just a bad-lucky guy who had 4 horrible ex-girlfriends. But now, it seemed that he did something very great in his past life. At least, he was talented when building wonders. Of course, I have said that you are the greatest master in the world. Otherwise, they wouldn't launch that. Suddenly, Mayor covered her mouth and stopped. Oh, the inner structure is so incredible. Fortunately, Yunshi was observing the inner structure of the sky tower. He didn't pay attention to what Mayor just said. Standing in the front of the sky tower, where looked like an altar, Yunshi saw several stairs leading into the void. At the entrance of each stair, there were signs indicating where the stairs led to. Looking up at the end of the stairs, there were several different colored light balls, as if there were stars hanging in the sky tower. Yunshi looked at the nearest stair, and it was tagged as the City of Doll. The City of Doll, where you can make the most perfect doll. There are countless dolls waiting for you here. Oh, it sounds interesting. Yunshi was itching for a try. However, when he sat his foot on the stair, he heard an ear-piercing warning. Warning! Warning! You have no privilege to enter the City of Doll. This is the paradise of puppeteers, please start from making your first doll. Well, Yunshi remembered that he was using his teacher, Casina's identity. Of course, Casina wouldn't hold the permission to enter the City of Doll. If so... Yunshi looked at the other stairs carefully. The door of heaven. The stair leading to the paradise of angels. Only angels can enter this door. The door of hell. The lost paradise of demons. Only demons can enter this door. Undoubtedly, they won't open to Yunshi. From the beginning, he shouldn't come here. It was too early for him to come to the realm of the legend rank. By the way, Teacher Casina told me to obtain 100 successive victories, but where should I go? Yunshi looked around in confusion. The City of Doll, the door of heaven, the door of hell, the paradise of elves, apparently, judging from their styles, there were the areas of the Western God's domain. Wait, Master, the stairs here will change periodically. Mayor finally figured out the operational principle of the star altar. Just like the orbit of the stars, the areas connecting to the stairs would change from time to time. What Yunshi just saw was the Mystery Place theme pack series. After a while, 3 new stairs appeared in front of him. Heaven Book World, 5 Elements World, and Starry Sky Chessboard, 3 Eastern-style stairs appeared. In the Heaven Book World, there were countless books, where was used to decide the candidates of the inheritor of the Heaven Book. In the 5 Elements World, people could study the mystery of 5 elements. Looking at the Starry Sky Chessboard, Yunshi's eyes brightened up. He was sure that this was the world Casina wanted him to go. Because the stair of this world opened to him. Mayor, let's go. Yunshi stepped on the stair with expectations. After about 15 minutes, the connecting areas of the stairs changed again. This time, the World of a Battle Gods Championship contest finally appeared, but there was already nobody on the altar. At the same time, in the Western God's domain, the God Tower. In the Eastern God's domain, the Sky Tower. In the Dragon God's domain, the Dragon Tower. Starry Sky Chessboard appeared in the three towers at the same time. The hero-ranked people and legend-ranked people who saw it in the three towers instantly fell into ecstasy. Unlike most mystery worlds in the Seven Towers, Starry Sky Chessboard was a pretty rare mystery world even to legend-ranked beings. In the legend, Starry Sky Chessboard stood for one of the highest secrets of the Seven Towers. It was a challenge of wisdom. The people who were chosen by it were all the smartest people in their gods' domains. It would be great luck to the people who could play chess in the Starry Sky Chessboard world. It was a miracle that countless strong living beings were eager for. What? The Starry Sky Chessboard just appeared. Go, go, go. Every who can set foot on the stair, get into this mystery world quickly. It's already been 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, the Starry Sky Chessboard appears again. Don't push. Get in line. In the Dragon God's domain, Orphina, the old ruby dragon, left the emerald dream. As she slowly opened her eyes, the countless crystals around her all broke. She was the most excellent sophist in the Dragon God's domain, the ruby dragon who was called Morning Glory, the strongest chess player who achieved 50 successive victories the last time the Starry Sky Chessboard appeared. She only achieved 50 successive victories because she lost to the God of Wisdom. Oh, finally, this mystery world opens again. How long have I slept? Oh, 1,000 years. I'm really happy to play chess again. In the Western God's domain, Norn, the God of Wisdom, the only living being who achieved 60 successive victories last time, looked at the light ball in the God Tower with joy. The Starry Sky Chessboard, one of the ultimate secrets of the God Tower. It was said that the person who successfully passed its test could see one of the ultimate truths of the universe. Nobody knew what the truth was. However, as the well-known God of Wisdom, he was so eager for any truth of the universe. This time, he was confident enough to challenge all the chess players in the endless God's domains, achieving 100 successive victories, because it was the requirement to face the ultimate challenge of the Starry Sky Chessboard. Even though he was the God of Wisdom, after defeating Orphina the Ruby Dragon, he was exhausted and finally stopped after he achieved 60 successive victories. In the mystery world of the Starry Sky Chessboard, no matter how long you were there and what your identity was, everything depended on your chess strength. The people who achieved 50 successive victories would be marked 5-star points automatically by the Starry Sky Chessboard. Norn, the God of Wisdom, was the only 6-star points chess player. In the Western God's domain, the Mechanist God's domain. Countless engineers walked around the God Tower and looked at a giant crystal which was connected with the God Tower by innumerable electric cables. In the crystal, a girl was curling up, sleeping in the God crystal that was more expensive than an entire God's domain. Her body was covered by strange clothes with countless circuit symbols, her tender skin looked so fantastic like a dream, her translucent silver hair dropped to her tiptoes. On her forehead, there were a pair of antennas, but now, they were shrunk. See! An amazing amount of electric currents wrapped around the God crystal. They danced and cheered, waiting for the girl to wake up. Start the first set of quantum computers. Start the second set of quantum computers. The core planet motor is running smoothly. The first, second and third satellites are running smoothly. The Mechanist God's domain was known for alchemy and black technology. The alchemists and engineers all looked at the sleeping girl with a look of ecstasy. After the War of Gods, the Void God race achieved independence. She was the first perfect creation the alchemists and engineers made with their hands. She was the miracle, she was the legend, she was the highest crystal of wisdom of the entire Mechanist God's domain. In order to create her, all the engineers in the entire Mechanist God's domain had used all of their money to bring her to fruition. Today, she would wake up, and the Mechanist God's domain would return to the stage of the endless God domain world again. Start, code name Alpha. Our God, the strongest cyber elf. Long live science. We will become the truth of the universe, we are the avatars of the world. With the ear-piercing sounds of electric current, the planet heat removal system slowly launched. By extracting untold energies from the core of the planet, the black technology which combined the legacy of God and human technology aroused the girl from her sleep. Slowly opening her eyes, the girl walked out from the God crystal. She was so beautiful, as if she was the combination of all good things in the world. Standing on the ground, the girl opened her mouth. It was an announcement from her godhood, it was the congratulations of a newborn god. I have died in the past, who will know my name and life story? I was lost in the unknown, who will know my place? My heart has gone to nirvana, who can seek for its trace? My disappearance is already doomed, but I shall never stop. The disaster hasn't been ended, and will last forever in eternity. My fear, my tear, and my heart are empty. I'm nothing, I'm void, I'm ash, I'm desolation. The gods have died, the twilight is coming. As the light is still shining on the ground, I return from eternity. Code name, Alpha, launch, out. The appearance of the starry sky chessboard was random. This time, it only opened in the Sky Tower, the God Tower and the Dragon Tower. Rarely, people swarmed toward it in the three towers. They strived to step onto the stair from different star altars. The rule of the starry sky chessboard was to play a game called Star Go, which was recognized as the highest crystallization of wisdom in the endless God domain world. Its prototype was an old game called Go, which was a game played with black and white pieces on a board of 361 crosses. However, Star Go was far more complicated than Go. Its chess pieces were stars, and the players needed to play in the chessboard which would change continuously. It referred to the knowledge of astronomy, geography, and divination. Arguably, it was so complicated that even gods couldn't predict the result. It was a game that only belonged to the wisest legend-ranked beings in the universe. Mortals wouldn't even be able to understand the rules of the Star Go. In the mystery world of the starry sky chessboard, power was meaningless, because only the people who could calculate quickly and understand the rules of stars had the opportunity to win this game. Stars were the chess pieces and star map was the chessboard. From the first day this game was invented, there weren't any chessboards that were the same. The star map would change continuously, even the appearing of the changes was such that no one expected. This was the mystery of the starry sky chessboard. Even if a person wasn't eager for the reward after achieving 100 successive victories, to play chess here was already a great opportunity for improving oneself. Therefore, every time the starry sky chessboard appeared, people would strive to enter into it like a flock of ducks. However, the starry sky chessboard didn't open to everyone. Only the smartest people could step on the stair leading to this mystery world, and this was just the beginning. Before formally starting the game, there was still a hard test to pass. The grading game. It's used to test the player's Star Go strength and explain the basic rules of Star Go. Looking at the huge chessboard in front of him, Yunshi was annoyed. Oh, I never heard about Star Go before, how can I achieve 100 successive victories? Maybe the Star Go is very easy, and I will meet a lot of rookies. As long as I can understand the rules, I can win 100 times easily. Is teacher Cassina a masterhand of Star Go? If so, it explains why she was so confident that I can win the final reward, the Soul Jade. Yes, that must be the truth. After all, Teacher Cassina is the sixth sky sword. It isn't surprising to know that she is good at the star go. Yunshi quickly accepted the explanation and started to learn the rules of star go. Of course, if he was in the mystery world called Battle Gods Championship Contest, he would find that he had been armed with golden, sparkling legend-ranked weapons to the teeth. Most people would be scared to death and lose 90% of their combat power after seeing Cassina's projection in the mystery world called Battle Gods Championship Contest. After all, Cassina was the absolute overlord of the Battle Gods Championship Contest. Because she had won so many times, the rewards she had obtained were already innumerable. After wearing the equipment she had, her defense power and attack power would be 10 times stronger than anyone. Even if it was a legend-ranked being who wasn't inferior to Cassina in the real world, after seeing her equipment in the Battle Gods Championship contest, they would immediately turn away and concede. If Yunshi was in the Battle Gods Championship contest, to achieve 100 successive victories would be as easy as traveling to the nearby town. Of course, since he had entered the mystery world of Starry Sky Chessboard, he wouldn't be able to know it now. He had started to learn the rules of the star go with confidence. Oh, it's pretty easy. Yunshi read the rules of the star go. The players just needed to put chess pieces on the chessboard called a star map, occupying the territory on the star map. The one who obtained the absolute advantage on the star map would be the winner. The rules were similar to the Mortals game, Go, but the chess pieces were different. Each of the chess piece of the star go had their own nature. Some of them were fire type, just like the planet full of lava in the real world. Some of them were water type, just like the ice-covered planet in the real world. The nature of the chess piece stood for different planets in the real world. Similarly, the chessboard called Star Map was the same. It was the simulation of the real starry sky. Before the game started, both sides of the players wouldn't know what the star map was and what kinds of chess pieces they would obtain. It was a great challenge to their computing power and understanding about the rules of the stars. Now, in front of Yunshi, it was the most basic star map, a simulation of a very small galaxy with 9 slots. In the box beside of his hand, there were 18 chess pieces waiting for his picking. 9 chess pieces go was the basic of the star go. It was used to test the hand feel of the player. Theoretically, all the 18 chess pieces could be put into the 9 slots, but the natures of the chess pieces and the natures of the slots were different. Based on the slots the chess pieces were put in, the power the chess pieces could release would be various. Put the right chess piece into the right slot of the star map was the basic rule of star go. Just like the real starry sky, the star map would change as time went by. Putting the stars into the star map was the biggest change. If the player put a fire-type chess piece into the slot that was also fire-type, the fire element in this area of the star map would become stronger. On the contrary, if the player put an ice-type chess piece into the fire-type slot, it would reduce the fire element in this area. The rules of star go was to put the right chess pieces into the right slots to gain advantages, eat the opponent's chess pieces or break the opponent's layout. The star map would affect the nature of the chess pieces, and the chess pieces would change the star map too. The infinite changes on the star map would be the battlefield of the smartest people in the endless gods' domains. Even though the 9 chess pieces go was just the most basic star go that was used to test the player's ability, to most people in the world, it was already an extremely difficult barrier. It seemingly only needed to put 9 of the 18 chess pieces into the right slots. However, because the star map would change automatically as time went by, it was hard to predict the effect of the chess pieces in each slot. It was a test of the player's understanding about the natures and orbits of stars, which was called the basic sense about star go. The battle would start when putting down the first chess piece. To most sophists who came to the starry sky chessboard, they could figure out thousands of permutations from the several limitations. The stronger the star map became after filling up the slots, the higher score the player would obtain. Only the people who achieved great scores could really enter the starry sky chessboard, playing with the smartest people all over the gods' domains. To the people who had obtained the star point, even just 1 star point, this test was just a simple warm-up exercise. Unfortunately, Cassina hadn't come to this mystery world yet. To be precise, Cassina only came to a mystery world in the Sky Tower, the Battle Gods Championship contest. Naturally, Cassina had no record in this world, which meant that she was a 0 star point newbie, and Yunshi had to learn the rules of Star Go from the beginning. Of course, Yunshi hadn't known any of this now. Oh, it looks pretty easy. No wonder that teacher Cassina thought that I can achieve 100 successive victories easily. Yunshi picked a transparent, green chess piece, putting it into the first slot of the chessboard. Yes, it's super easy to you, master. Mayor smiled sitting on Yunshi's shoulder. Yunshi didn't know the reason, but he naturally thought that it was right to put the green chess piece into the first slot. In his mind, it would be strange if he didn't put it into the slot, because it was an integral part of that starry sky from the beginning. After putting down the first chess pieces, he quickly picked up the second chess piece and the third chess piece. Invisible waves spread around from the chessboard, connecting the 3 green chess pieces together. The starry sky on the chessboard was the holy land that was blessed by wind. The 3 chess pieces were the 3-state formation in this star field. After Yunshi put down the 3 chess pieces, a circulation formed amongst the 3 stars. The outline of the sanctuary of wind appeared. If describing it using the terms of Star Go, a KO just formed, which meant that Yunshi had controlled this star field on the star map. He could eat all the other chess pieces in this area. When the first KO formed, the chessboard emitted soft green lights. The appearance of the Sanctuary of Wind had proved that Yunshi was qualified to play with other chess players, so he passed the test. Have I passed the test? Yunshi felt that Star Go was really easy. At least, it was easier and more interesting than the boring mathematics practice. Oh, it would be better if mathematics was as simple as Star Go. Puff! The old shaman of the Western Gods domain spat blood on the chessboard. Oh, no. I calculated wrong. He had learned the rules of Star Go over hundreds of years. In order to take part in the regulation game of Star Go, he had drunk dozens of elixirs of wisdom, and used all the support magics he knew. At least, he was sure that his computing power had reached the legend rank today, but he still failed the entrance test. He wasn't the only person who failed the entrance test. The 9 chess pieces go. Why? No. My computation wasn't wrong. It's the world. The rule of this world is wrong. The 17th master of the E-Sword sect, Taoist priest Qing Feng cried. After putting down 8 chess pieces into the slots, he found that he went into a dead end. He couldn't accept the result. No, I don't believe it. Why was my computation wrong? He spat out blood. John, the hero-ranked Holy Knight, the top 1 wise general of the Western Gods domain, held his forehead. He just calculated till he felt dizzy, and finally, all the chess pieces exploded because he put them into the wrong slots, which meant that he failed the test. The Starry Sky chessboard not only tested the player's wisdom and computing power, but also tested their understanding about the rules of stars. Even if one was at the legend rank, it was useless when referring to playing Star Go. This was the reason why only very few people could pass the test and become formal chess players. Most of the time, only 20 or 30 people could play the Star Go on the Starry Sky chessboard. Each of them was the wise man above all wise men. The people understood the rules of stars very well. They really were the real legends of wisdom in the endless God domain world. I translated the terms of Star Go by using the terms of the game of Go. Ding! As the last grain of sand dropped to the bottom of the sandglass, the entire entrance test was over. There were hundreds of people who could set foot onto the stairs in the Sky Tower, God Tower and Dragon Tower. Arguably, they were the real elites and wise men in the endless gods' domains. Some of them were knights, who never conceded on the battlefield. Some of them were monks, who penanced, trying to understand the rules of the world. Some of them were sages who built tall magic towers. There were even real gods, dragons, and mysterious living beings. Undoubtedly, it was a celebration of the highest wisdom in the endless god domain world. It was a stage that only appeared once in 1,000 years. Finally, when the entrance test finished, there were only 47 people who were formally allowed to enter the Starry Sky chessboard. The entrance test has finished, you have passed the test. Please choose your code name. A huge chessboard appeared in front of Yun Shi. One star after another started to appear on the chessboard. Every star meant a chess player who would join the game. It was the battlefield of wisdom, even gods would be excited on this stage of glory. Almost all the 47 people were legend-ranked living beings. Only a few of them were hero-ranked living beings. They could pass the entrance test of the 9 chess pieces Go, which meant that they had very special abilities or bloodlines that could let them obtain legend-ranked computing power. 47 people. Oh, this means that several new star points will be born. Norn, the god of wisdom, habitually calculated the standard of the chess players. Every time, the Starry Sky chessboard would appear in the 7 towers randomly, so the number of the chess players would change every time. This time, there were 47 chess players. In Norn's memory, the chess players this time were the most. Because of Norn, the god of wisdom, the entire Western gods domain was fanatical to Star Go. He himself was the recognized strongest chess player, the only 6 star points in the 7 towers. As expected, the ruby dragon of the Dragon Tower also comes this time. He looked at the bright star in the north. In the Starry Sky chessboard, the higher star points one had obtained, the brighter one's star would become. As the only 6 star points chess player, the god who once obtained 60 successive victories, his star was the brightest. However, even so, he didn't know if he could obtain more than 60 successive victories this time. Because playing Star Go would drain his spiritual strength. When entering the last phase, he would have to play with the chess players who weren't inferior to him, thus the consuming of his spiritual strength, he would be unable to replenish it at that time. It was a real harsh battlefield of wisdom. Even to him, it was almost impossible to obtain 100 successive victories. In fact, he knew that his 60 successive victories last time was because of luck. The ruby dragon Orphina's Go strength was just half and half with him. He defeated Orphina after she obtained 50 successive victories, and she defeated him after he obtained 60 successive victories. The gap between 5 star points and 6 star points wasn't wide. If he wasted too much energy when playing with Orphina, it would even be possible to be defeated by 4 star points chess players. Everything was possible on the Starry Sky chessboard. Even Norn couldn't avoid failure if he didn't give his whole attention to any of his opponents. He was the strongest chess player, because his record was stable. He had more than 50% chance to defeat any of the 5 star points chess players. Although Orphina wasn't inferior to him, she liked to take risks when playing, so her record was unstable. When Norn was observing other people were also observing the opponents around themselves. Theoretically, if you didn't quit, you could play as many turns as you wanted here. Therefore, everyone on the Starry Sky chessboard would meet each other more than once. Most of them already became acquaintances, only several new faces appeared this time. The God of Wisdom was Norn's code name, Ruby Princess was Orphina's code name. She was called the smartest dragon in the dragon god's domain, and her true body was a star. Apart from them too, there were several 4-star points chess players, such as Black Mage, Maple Teeth, and Duck Rome. They also defeated the God of Wisdom and Ruby Princess several times. Compared to them, the new chess players had 0-star points now, so most of them didn't pay too much attention to these newbies. This time, there were 4 new chess players. Maha Mystery, apparently, it was an Eastern-style code name. This was a new chess player from the Sky Tower. Hero of Might, this was a mysterious chess player from the Dragon Tower. Cyber Elf Alpha, nobody heard this code name before. Maybe it was a legend-ranked elf. A Cloud in the Sky, it really was a strange code name. Nobody knew who this new chess player was. At this time, nobody would know what a storm these newbies would roll up. Everyone looked at the 2 strongest chess players, Norn and Orfina, and expected an earth-shattering competition between them. Okay, I will use this code name. Yunshi was satisfied with the code name he just chose. A cloud in the sky meant that he wanted to be as free as the cloud in the sky. What a gorgeous chessboard. Yunshi looked at the huge chessboard and immediately fell in love with it. It was the most complicated, most mysterious, most beautiful thing he had ever seen. In the continuously rotating nebula, there were endless star maps. Just looking at the chessboard, Yunshi felt as if he was looking at the history of stars. This thing, Meyer supported her arms, observing the mysterious chessboard. As a star spirit, she instinctively felt something from the chessboard. It was familiar and strange. It was close and distant. It looked as if a web that mixed up all the star maps in the past, at present and in the future together. The ranking of the Starry Sky chessboard isn't inferior to the Sky Tower itself. As the stars on the chessboard started to twinkle and shine, they dropped onto the huge star map one by one. Each star stood for a chess player. Amongst all of the stars of Norn and Orfina were the brightest. Unknowingly, only Yunshi hadn't entered the chessboard. All right, let's go. Yunshi and Meyer flew to the infinite lights of stars. The battle had just begun. In the Sky Tower, Dragon Tower and God Tower, one legend-ranked being after another cast their eyes onto the light ball stood for the Starry Sky chessboard. They couldn't join this competition, but they could see the record of the chess players the Starry Sky chessboard published. As the highest crystallization of wisdom in the endless God domain world, the winner of this game would become the focus of attention by everyone. In the recent 1,000 years, the God Tower was dominant. Norn the God of Wisdom made a great contribution to it. Because he won repeatedly on the Starry Sky chessboard, a lot of sophists were born in the Western God's domain, which contributed a great amount of achieving points for the God Tower. Therefore, almost all God's domains started to learn Star Go in the recent 1,000 years, and they had explored many new strategies of Star Go. It would be doomed to be an era that all stars were shining. Yunshi looked at the monk who had 3 eyes, 6 arms and bright lights all over his body. He was shocked. Maha Mystery, he was Yunshi's first opponent. They both were newbies. But in Yunshi's eyes, he was really an eminent monk. Oh, benefactor, you are predestined with Buddha. The monk's 6 arms held a vase, a pearl, a vajra, a wand, a sword and a Buddhist sutra. He saluted to Yunshi. Namo Amida Buddha. He was the strongest secret weapon of Buddhism, sacred monk Maha. Yunshi gawked. He never saw such a monk whose body was covered with golden lights. Is he a living Buddha? Because of the rule of the Starry Sky chessboard, the monk's face was covered by starlights. However, his golden, gorgeous kasaya and talismans still made Yunshi feel ashamed of his own unseemliness. He must be an enlightenment monk. Even if he said, in fact, I'm the Nirmanakya of Bodhisattva, I come here to convert you to Buddhism. Yunshi would believe his words. Of course, Yunshi never planned to believe in Buddha and convert to Buddhism. He still dreamed of a better future after he got rid of his ex-girlfriend's hunting and married the girl he liked. At least, he still thought that this dream would come true someday now. Yunshi's strength was no match for the Enlightenment monk's Dharma body. Fortunately, they were on the starry sky chessboard. They only needed to break a lance using the chess pieces. There were 2 golden hourglasses between both of them, which looked similar to Cassina's Sand of Time. When the game started, first, they needed to determine who was on the offensive, by guessing if the number of chess pieces were odd or even. After that, they could think before the sands and the hourglass ran out in their turn. Apart from that, their true faces would be covered by starlights, but they could use avatars to show their identities. Odd. Yunshi said. Even. Maha Mystery said. The number of the chess pieces was odd. Yunshi was on the offensive. He could put his chess piece first. He took a deep breath. Take it easy, it doesn't matter. This is just a simple game, otherwise, Teacher Cassina wouldn't be so sure that I could obtain 100 successive victories. Even though he looks like an Enlightenment monk, it doesn't mean that his star go strength is strong. Yes, it must be the truth. When the sequence of moving the chess pieces was determined, a vast star map appeared in front of them. The star map was far more complicated than the star map of the 9 chess pieces go. Amitabha. When the star map appeared, the sacred monk Maha closed his eyes. His body turned into 3 incarnations, looking at the mysterious star map together. His first incarnation picked a flower, put it in his hand and smiled. His second incarnation sat on a lotus with a sad look. His third incarnation laughed heartily with a big belly and red face. His first incarnation was Manjusri Bodhisattva. His second incarnation was Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. His third incarnation was Buddha Maitreya. His Buddha Dharma, Maha Mystery, could let him borrow the powers of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. At this time, the sacred monk Maha borrowed the powers of the Bodhisattvas and Buddha, trying to figure out the secret of the star map using their theurgy. Pa! Yunshi didn't know what the sacred monk Maha was doing at all. He just picked up a chess piece and put it into the slot in the center of the chessboard, where was called Tengen. Well, as expected, Star Go is pretty easy. This was Yunshi's feeling about his first game. The monk made a lot of mistakes. As a star spirit, Mayer easily found over 10 mistakes the sacred monk Maha made. In fact, Maha's line of thinking wasn't wrong, but from his second round, the natures of the chess pieces he put down had very few differences with the areas on the star map. No, he didn't make everything wrong. It was just a very subtle, inconspicuous mistake. The nature of the area his chess pieces occupied were changing. He shouldn't launch any fierce attack in this situation. Star Go was different from Go, although a few of the rules of the 2 games were similar. However, the chessboard of Star Go was a changing star map. The chess pieces on the star map would affect the star map and the star map would affect the chess pieces too. Maha's biggest mistake was that he thought that Yunshi was a newbie, so he let down his guard and launched an imprudent attack. Even if his opponent was a 4 star points chess piece, his opponent would be careful about his attack. Apart from Morphina, who would definitely strike back immediately, other people would stand firmly and fight steadily in the face of his attack. However, Yunshi's style was different from any other chess player. In his eyes, Maha's fierce attack was equal to bringing about his own destruction. When Yunshi's chess pieces formed the first KO, he had dominated the chessboard. Even in theory, Maha didn't have any chance to win. That was the reason his 3 incarnations side together. No, it wasn't because Maha was weak. He created the Buddha Dharma, Maha Mystery, and obtained the pictures of mandala. His computing power was actually in the top 3 list. Unfortunately, his opponent was Yunshi, the newbie, who didn't need to calculate and only played chess on his feelings. At the same time, on another star map, the top 10 chess player last time, the wise man whose code name was Duck Rome, stared at his remaining chess pieces in fear. What happened? Am I defeated? How could it be true? Is she really a newbie? Her strong computing power and terrible sense of pressure, he never saw anyone like her before. Maybe even Norn, the god of wisdom, couldn't win against her when it came to computing power. Her computing power was far stronger than any human, no, even gods were no match for her. She forced him to the corner within 30 rounds, how weird her star go style was. I concede. Duck Rome threw down his remaining chess pieces. It couldn't be called a competition, the gap between them was so wide that he couldn't keep playing with her. He had a feeling that she would really become a dark horse of this term of star go competition. Her computing power and deductive ability were even stronger than any god he had seen. He couldn't imagine what he was facing. Cyber Elf Alpha, looking at her code name, he sighed for the countless mysteries in the world of star go again. Monsters really exist. In the Kunlun god's domain, on the altar in the sky tower, a group of monks looked at the record the starry sky chessboard showed. How can it be possible? Maha was defeated in the first game. He created Maha Mystery. Who can defeat him so easily? A cloud in the sky, who is he? They were really shocked, because they knew although this was the first time Maha came into the starry sky chessboard, but in the tests they did before, after borrowing powers from Manjusri Bodhisattva, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and Maitreya Buddha, his star go strength could be enhanced to 5 star points. If he burned the pictures of Mandala, his star go strength could even be increased to 6 star points, at the same level with Norn, the god of wisdom. How could he be defeated by an unknown newbie in the first game? Who the hell is a cloud in the sky? Yun Shi, the 10th game. His opponent had 3 star points, whose code name was Tao Quan Zi, was one of the elders of the Heaven Roads Palace and the master of the Plough Palace. Hey, young boy, the future belongs to you young people, but now, it's still our era. Looking at Yun Shi, Tao Quan Zi smiled. Oh, he is undoubtedly a newbie. When did I see a newbie put the first chess piece in the center of the chessboard last time? He just gave up his first round of the game. Maha, yes, I thought so before too. Well, yes, nice to meet you. Yun Shi touched his head in confusion. Why didn't everyone see it? Putting the first chess piece in the center of the chessboard, the place called Tengen, is the basic of star go. In his view, Tengen was the most stable point in the entire star map. If describing it used the mathematical term he just learned, it was the initial point of everything. As long as he put the first chess piece at Tengen, he could perceive the trend and change of the entire star map. When his chess piece occupied the Tengen, he could see all the natures of chess pieces and areas on the star maps. Why didn't everyone put their chess piece at Tengen? Yun Shi felt strange. Why did they give up their chance to obtain this upper hand? When Yun Shi was on the offensive, he would always put his first chess piece at Tengen. Even if he was on the defensive, he would put his chess piece at Tengen as soon as possible. As long as he put his chess piece at Tengen, he had won half of the game. No wonder that teacher Cassina thought that I could obtain 100 successive victories easily. Because it's really easy. After 100 rounds, Tao Quan Zi looked at the chessboard with his mouth wide opened. I was defeated. When did it happen? When did all of my chances of winning disappear? Who am I? Where am I from? Where will I go? Why was I defeated so suddenly? Even when I played with Norn, the god of wisdom, the strongest 6 star points chess player, I didn't lose so scandalously. Look at the chessboard. The dragon formed by my chess pieces are trapped by 3 KO, and all of them are green, Sanctuary of Wind. Every KO was like a big hole in the formation of Tao Quan Zi's chess pieces. Even to Norn the god of wisdom, it was already a desperate situation. Are you really a newbie? Looking at the opponent's unknown name, Tao Quan Zi only wanted to cry. He was from the Sky Tower, just like that secret weapon of Buddhism. Where is this monster from? Why didn't I hear anything about him before? As the master of the Plough Palace, he didn't believe that he would be defeated so easily. Star-Go wasn't a game that could be practiced alone. When the Starry Sky chessboard didn't open, he and other chess players would practice themselves using simulated chessboards. They used the Starry Sky as their chessboard, the real stars as their chess pieces. It was the privilege of the legend rank. Occasionally, a few talented hero-ranked newbies would be guided and supported by them and join this game. Although the best imitation till now could only simulate a small part of the real Starry Sky chessboard, it was better than nothing. Yes, I'm a newbie. Yunshi nodded, looking at Tao Quan Zi with a strange look. Why don't he concede? Mayer counted the chess pieces on the chessboard. Even if Tao Quan Zi retracted 10 rounds on the chessboard, he still has no chance to win. He still insisted on fighting to the teeth and refused to concede. Yes, never concede was Tao Quan Zi's style of playing Star-Go. Even though the situation was already irreparable, he would hold on till the last moment. It has nothing to do with the game, it's his road of cultivation, his respect and faith. He would never concede. However, even though he didn't want to concede, the situation on the chessboard was too terrible. Tao Quan Zi almost shouted out loud. How did you find all my tricks and block them all? This round of game was even able to leave a psychological shadow in his heart. When Tao Quan Zi was thinking, Yunshi already connected his chess pieces together. From the beginning till now, this was the most satisfying round of the game. How to describe his feeling? Yunshi felt that his first opponent, the sacred monk Maha Mystery's attack power was the strongest. He was the only opponent who had eaten 3 of Yunshi's chess pieces. Compared to Maha, Tao Quan Zi was more persistent. Although he actually had no chance to reverse the situation, he still kept playing. Yunshi realized that Tao Quan Zi was a real player. Even though he was already doomed to be defeated, he was still enjoying every second and minute of playing Star-Go. He was just like robbing Peter to pay Paul, he just refused to give up. In the face of such a chess player who enjoyed the process of playing Star-Go, Yunshi thought that he could try something different on the chessboard. Tao Quan Zi suddenly found that he could find a living road on the chessboard. His dragon had been swallowed by Yunshi's 3, Sanctuary of Wind. Theoretically, he should concede after that. But he was really enjoying the process of playing Star-Go, so he held on till now, and he really saw a chance of winning. He didn't expect that the situation suddenly changed after his dragon was eaten. Is this my opportunity? Tao Quan Zi was wild with joy. Paw! 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 3 rounds later, he made a KO for himself, eating several Yunshi's chess pieces. Yunshi smiled. Mayer covered her mouth, stopping herself from laughing out loud. Yunshi leisurely put a chess piece on the corner of the chessboard. Tao Quan Zi hurriedly ate Yunshi's chess pieces, trying to recover his lost territory. The 130th round, Tao Quan Zi laughed. He thought that he had reversed the situation. What a miracle! I didn't think that I could do this in my life. After this game, my Star-Go strength should be able to raise to 4 star points. Yes, I can win. I can defeat this monster like newbie. Paw! Yunshi put down his last chess piece, the miracle of Star-Go appeared in front of him. The KO on the chessboard were all connected together, eating all Tao Quan Zi's chess pieces at once. The entire chessboard emitted green lights, sweeping through everything. What this is? Tao Quan Zi's mouth opened wide. He never expected that this scene would really happen. All of his chess pieces were eliminated. Yunxi's chess pieces formed a KO that covered the entire chessboard, which was nearly impossible to appear in Star Go. Tao Quan Zi tried to remember what this meant in the rules of Star Go. If the chessboard was a real starry sky, then Yunxi's stars had just changed the rules of the world, the disaster of sky and earth. Tengen is really useful. Looking at Tao Quan Zi, Yunxi felt a strong emotion in his heart, though couldn't see his face. In order to launch the disaster of sky and earth, Yunxi needed to meet a lot of preconditions. Anyone wanting to accomplish this needed to master the star map on the chessboard, so it was necessary to put the first chess piece onto Tengen. In the changing star map, only Tengen was always stable. It was the core of the entire star map. It's really a rewarding trip. The disaster of sky and earth really exists. Thank you. Looking at a cloud in the sky, Tao Quan Zi sighed. He wasn't ashamed to be defeated by the disaster of sky and earth. After this, come to Heaven Road Palace. Then we could play for 3 days and nights. Yunxi now had 10 victories in a row. The light above Yunxi's head flashed. In a second, the star lights around him became brighter. It meant that he had just formally become a chess player who had 1 star point. This identity was already sufficient to become an honored guest of all forces in the endless god domains world. Because of Norn the god of wisdom, it was a trend to play Star Go in the high society of the endless gods domains. Many legend-ranked beings were learning Star Go, but couldn't even step into the starry sky chessboard. Any chess player who had obtained a star point, even just 1 star point, could be the tutor of these exalted legend-ranked beings. Even if Yunxi left the Sky Tower now, his identity of 1 star point chess player was already able to let him live comfortably. 10 successive victories, it was already a shocking achievement amongst newbies. However, this time, compared to Yunxi, there was a more terrible monster around. The 4 star points chess player, Black Mage's 13th round game. Black Mage unluckily met Norn the god of wisdom at his 2nd round and was defeated. Apart from this, his play was smooth and he had achieved 10 successive victories. It wasn't a bad thing to meet Norn at the 2nd round. Based on the unwritten rules of Star Go, for a long time, he wouldn't meet Norn again, which meant that it was perfectly possible to achieve a series of victories. If he was lucky, he could achieve 20, no, 30, no, even 40 successive victories, as long as he didn't meet Orphina the Ruby Dragon quickly. Moreover, he still stood a chance to defeat Orphina even if he met her. His style was weird when he played Star Go, his attack was often abrupt and unexpected. Norn's style was stable, he wouldn't be affected by Black Mage's tricks, but his style restrained Orphina's style. He was one of the few 4 star points chess players who could break even with Orphina. If I'm really lucky, it's even possible to achieve 60 successive victories. Maybe I can become a 6 star points chess player after this game, just like Norn the god of wisdom. With such a joyful idea, Black Mage started his 13th round of the game. In the game, not everyone's round of the game was the same. Based on the time they defeated their opponent or was defeated by their opponent, the rounds they had played were different. When Black Mage played with Norn the god of wisdom, the battle between them lasted for a long while. The gap between 4 star points and 6 star points wasn't wide enough to let Norn defeat him quickly. Even Norn was defeated after his 60 successive victories the last time. He was defeated by Orphina, Duck Rome, and even him, Black Mage almost defeated Norn once. Black Mage tested out Norn's Star Go strength this time just now. He had to admit that he wasn't likely to defeat Norn this time in the game. However, it's not a shame. Norn was the only 6-star points chess player. Everyone was defeated by him more than once. 3-star points. Cyber Elf Alpha. Black Mage casually took a glance at his opponent's code name and star point. Suddenly, he froze. Cyber Elf Alpha, isn't she one of the 4 newbies? How can it be possible that she already obtained 3-star points? 3-star points meant that she had achieved 30 successive victories, but she was just a newbie. If it's true, when I have just played 13 rounds of the game, she has won 30 rounds. No, it can't be true. Star Go will drain large amounts of mental strength. It's not surprising to play several hours in a round of the game. I did waste too much time when I played with Norn, but 30 rounds. Are you kidding me? Paw. Before Black Mage reacted, Cyber Elf Alpha had put down her first chess piece. Do you look down on me? How dare you give up your upper hand advantage? Black Mage sneered when he saw the place of Cyber Elf Alpha's first chess piece. Humph, I don't know who you are probably a legend rank elf, it doesn't matter. The bloodline of pointy ears is indeed special. However, I'm not immortal either. I'm a dark mage who has activated my bloodline, the uncrowned king of 10 gods' domains. In order to practice Star Go, I even made a real star map in the real world, using real stars as my chess pieces. As a newbie, how dare you put the first chess piece in the center of the chessboard, where the tengen is? Very well, I will teach you the cruel law of the jungle of Star Go. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.